the Cardcaptor Wizard of Hogwarts. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276. The road ahead is long and arduous. In the past, Azkaban has always been talked about by wizards. Because of the Dementors, more than 50% of the criminals were unable to escape from Azkaban alive, and the criminals who were released from prison were basically "it's not good to all die within a year." Under the stunned and slightly dull eyes of everyone, Bernard smiled and recounted, "Penalty should not only make people fearful, although it can reduce crime. After all, anyone can make mistakes. Such a high mortality rate can easily make criminals have a mentality of breaking the jar. At the same time, punishment should also make prisoners realize that give them a chance to correct their mistakes." Bernard's words were impassioned, but everyone's attention was obviously still on what he said before. "Wait a minute. Mr. Bernard, how do you allow the prisoner to fully accept a 1,000-year sentence?" The one who spoke was still the wizard who asked the question. "With our efforts, the new Azkaban bids farewell to the darkness of the past, cancels the setting of Dementors as jailers, and instead uses magic, the magic of time." Bernard looked at him and smiled proudly. With the technical support of an unnamed friend, each cell in the new Azkaban is equipped with time magic. The prisoners will spend corresponding time in it according to their respective sentences, and until the sentence is when it ends, the outside world will only pass for 24 hours at most. Is this really possible? That's the magic of controlling time. The wizard frowned and murmured, "And even if it can be done, won't the prisoner die of old age?" "No, no, no. During this process, the time in the cell will be constantly reset. During this process, the prisoner's body will only spend a maximum of 24 hours. Even if he commits suicide, he will come back to life immediately. Only the prisoner's consciousness will not be affected. You can clearly feel how long you have been in the cell." Bernard snapped his fingers. In order to prevent prisoners from developing mental problems in repeated and long periods of loneliness, New Azkaban has also thoughtfully prepared some corresponding measures to ensure that prisoners can still maintain a clear mind even if they spend thousands of years in a cage. Hiss, considerate, so considerate. The employees of the Ministry of Magic below felt chills in their hearts, and couldn't help but wonder how crazy the person who provided technical support was. This is the kind of person who should be imprisoned in the new Azkaban. No, the guy speaking now should be in prison too. During this process, prisoners need to complete corresponding labor exercises every day, learn legal provisions, and have enough time in their spare time to confess their crimes. If they perform well, their sentences will be reduced and paroled, and if they perform poorly, they will receive additional sentences. Bernard's face was filled with a warm and sunny smile. Under this premise, for example, the prisoner in the example mentioned before needs to make a choice whether to accept the death penalty after accepting a fixed-term prison sentence of 4,785 years and possible additional sentences, or to obtain a commutation of his sentence through good performance and parole. That's what this example is all about. Gudong. Everyone looked at the smile on his face and couldn't help but lower their eyes to avoid looking at him. This man is a devil. But putting aside the creepy feeling of being a prisoner, everyone can't help but sigh at the effectiveness of these laws. In fact, there has always been a troubling point in the ruling on punishment. If the sentence is too low, the prisoner will not feel pain or pain. If the sentence is too high, the prisoner will break the jar. Penalties that are beyond the scope of tolerance, such as a fixed-term imprisonment of more than 200 years, are basically all is invalid. Therefore, those really vicious criminals often don't care about doing more bad things. In the end, all we can do is let the Dementors entertain them. But in this law, every penalty will be implemented in place, and no penalty will be wasted in this way. Even prisoners who have killed someone must consider whether it is worth sitting in an uncapped prison cell for at least a few days before execution for some minor crimes. Looking at it this way, those punishments that directly involve death are simply lenient. Everyone couldn't help but take another look at those crimes that could directly lead to the death penalty, and then side with regret. Those crimes that carry the death penalty, such as malicious homicide, will also carry a fixed-term prison sentence starting from 500 years. This is if the other party immediately surrenders to the Ministry of Magic after killing someone to seek sentencing. Want to get stuck in this bug? Doesn't exist. After spending so much time asking Adam to build the prison of his dreams, how could Bernard leave such a shortcut that could solve the problem in one go? As a punishment for taking a life, Criminals sentenced to death can also enjoy the close care of the Ministry of Magic's new warden, Ghost Mosquito. During their detention, it can only be said that prisoners who are not well educated and want to get stuck will be very lucky in the future. Any other questions? Bernard smiled and looked at everyone at the conference table. As a result, everyone he saw lowered their heads and shook their heads desperately. So, Bernard looked at Eugene, who took over the conversation clearly. This meeting is over. The trial of the Death Eaters will begin in the afternoon. If you are interested, you can attend the trial, although, from the inner thoughts, everyone wanted to say that they would not go, but this was the first trial after the implementation of the new law, and it also changed the previous way of voting by raising hands in the Wizengamot, so everyone still came to the scene in the afternoon with their noses pinched. The original Wizengamot meeting room is now a court. Bernard, who used to speak generously in the meeting room, wore the clothes that symbolized the presiding judge and sat in the chief seat. Two wizards who were originally members of the Wizengamot sat on both sides of Bernard as judges. They are respected scholars in the wizarding world, and they are also two of the members of the Wizengamot who have a close relationship with Eugene. Bang! After knocking the hammer, Bernard looked at the people below. Although it was the first time to participate in this form of trial, many wizards were a little uncomfortable, and they couldn't even find their place at the beginning. But they began to look like they were doing it. When I was a child, my long-term dream was to become a great lawyer like my parents, but I didn't expect that I would become the presiding judge in one step. Oh no, it should be the Chief Justice. Bernard's mind was full of thoughts, but he remained serious on the surface, and said in a cold voice, "The first trial of the Death Eaters will begin now." It is somewhat ironic that the Death Eaters under Voldemort this time are much fewer in number than those under Voldemort back then because of the encirclement and suppression from many sides, but the number of people who need to go through the trial in the end is much more than the previous time. Due to the current shortage of manpower in the Ministry of Magic and the judicial field, the trial even needs to be conducted in batches. You should know that some of the Death Eaters have even postponed the trial because they need to be further determined in biological classification. It is a long and arduous task to establish a real judicial system in the wizarding world. What did Adam say? Bernard looked at the Death Eaters brought up by two bailiffs with a cold and firm look. The road is long and arduous, and I will search up and down. Chapter 277. Lucius, I plead guilty. Bellatrix Lestrange, who confessed to her crimes, is sentenced to 20 years in prison and death. The verdict on the first Death Eater was too smooth after all. Bellatrix completely collapsed after discovering that Voldemort seemed to be really dead this time. After a hysterical tantrum, she became a dazed look. She neither admitted nor denied all the crimes mentioned by Bernard, and just stood there blankly. Wait a moment, just when Bernard was about to drop the hammer, a member of the jury raised his hand. Mr. Tower, please tell me why you interrupted the trial. Bernard's slightly disappointed heart suddenly became excited. Mr. Bernard, Bellatrix's current state is obviously not right. I have reason to suspect that all her crimes were caused by Voldemort's Imperious Curse, and now she is in the sequelae of long-term control of the Imperious Curse. Tower said so in front of everyone. As soon as the words fell, a discussion broke out from the jury and the audience below. As the first Death Eater to be tried, Bellatrix was so famous that there were even many family members of those she had heard present at one time. Many people gave Mr. Tower a warm and all-round greeting. I'm XXX, accompanied by a roar. A boot flew straight towards the jury, but fortunately it was stopped by the bailiff, which made Bernard's eyelids jump. Silence. The gavel fell, and everyone in the court felt as if someone had hit their backs on their heads, and their heads were dizzy for a second, and the court returned to silence. Mr. Tower, so you want to object to the trial process? Bernard looked at Tower. Yes, Mr. Bernard. Tower nodded. Then, please come forward, Bernard said as he uncovered the red cloth that had been covering the trial bench, which turned out to be a golden scale. Tall was about to stand up, but when he saw the scale, he immediately sat back down. What is this for? During the trial, it is indeed possible that the defendant has difficulty in defending himself. In this case, everyone in the court can defend him and raise objections to the previous trial process. Bernard was talking about the content of the law, which was also the reason why Tall dared to stand up at this time. But the law does not say that the defendant must accept the judgment of the scale of Anubis. That's true, but since this trial is large in scale and the defendant's criminal behavior is extremely bad, I happened to have the scale of Anubis, so I borrowed it. It's no secret that Bernard is also Eugene's roommate. When he said this, his expression was very natural. Why is Mr. Tall's defense mixed with lies? Do I need to remind you, Mr. Tall, that people who speak in court must be responsible for every word they say? This, Tall's forehead was sweating, secretly hating how the future minister of the Egyptian Ministry of Magic was so unreliable that he dared to lend out such a magical artifact casually. He did want to use Bellatrix's special situation to disrupt Bernard's first trial, but he didn't want to risk his life. For a while, Tall sat there, accepting the gazes of the people around him, either watching the show or questioning, mumbling, not knowing what to say. That? I was just talking casually, just talking casually, just talking casually. Bernard's eyes turned cold. So, Mr. Tall, do you admit that you were maliciously disrupting the order of the court? No. Not maliciously. At most, unintentional. Tall swallowed his saliva, bent his back unconsciously, and spoke weakly. That, disrupting the order of the court, how many years will be sentenced? The new law was so thick, how could he read it all? Of course, he would remember the more important and most sentenced crimes first. Bernard's eyes flashed with boredom, and he shook his head. Your situation won't warrant a few years of sentence. 7 days of detention, and a fine will be enough. Can you just pay the fine? I can pay more. Bernard glared at him. I'll go right away. Tall stood up and took the initiative to trot in the direction of the bailiff. There is no need to be so anxious. Bernard was silent for a while, knocked the gavel to complete the verdict on Bellatrix, and then asked the bailiff to bring the second defendant. There was a commotion in the court again. The person who was brought to the dock by the bailiff was Lucius Malfoy. Silence. Another hammer, but this time the effect was not as immediate as before. Bernard had to knock again. The court returned to silence again. Bernard looked at Lucius Malfoy and stated, Lucius Malfoy, do you admit the crime of providing financial support for the activities of Voldemort and his followers, which indirectly caused a large number of casualties? I admit it. Lucius nodded without hesitation. Hearing this, everyone cast a shocked look at him, especially those who were familiar with Lucius, who almost couldn't help but exclaimed, oh my god. Professor Gandalf of Hogwarts cast the imperious curse on people. Mr. Bernard, I suspect that this guy is someone pretending to be someone using Polyjuice Potion. I want to verify his identity. A member of the jury couldn't help but stand up. Bernard took a look and found that it was still an acquaintance, but he was only familiar with him through word of mouth. Mr. Arthur, please sit down. Every defendant will go through multiple strict identity confirmations before going to court. It is impossible to pretend to be someone using Polyjuice Potion. Yes, the one who couldn't help but stand up was Fred and George's father, Arthur Weasley. Lucius glanced at him and smiled slightly. Arthur, my old friend, why don't you want to believe that I have turned over a new leaf? I have seriously repented in the past few years at Hogwarts. You. XX. Who is your old friend? Ahem. Mr. Arthur, please control your emotions, otherwise I can only ask you to leave the court temporarily. Bernard couldn't help but remind him. Seeing this, Lucius no longer paid attention to Arthur, and said to Bernard with a serious face, I am willing to plead guilty, but I have some facts to state. Bernard nodded as he watched the trial return to normal. You say, it was Bernard, Eugene and Adam who had already discussed putting Lucius in the second trial as the first practical application of the new law. This trial will inevitably become a model for countless trials in the future, so it is necessary to mix in sufficiently comprehensive examples. For example, show how to defend yourself from guilt, and strive for a reduction in sentence and probation. Chapter 278 Lucius and number 039, S. Defense. The facts I would like to state are as follows. Standing in the dock, Lucius spoke calmly. Lucius did feel fear when he knew that he still had to undergo a trial. To Lucius, the word trial was not a verdict of crime, and such a trial would never fall on a member of the Malfoy family. In his understanding, there is only one kind of judgment that will fall on him, and that is that after the war, the victorious party puts the defeated party on the dining table and shares the flesh and blood of the defeated party. Lucius was not surprised by this, and was not even unfamiliar with it. The Malfoy family suffered a lot of blood during the last Wizarding War, but why was he brought to the table again this time? This time he has clearly abandoned the dark side and turned to the bright side. Lucius quickly found Professor Gandalf. Unexpectedly, Professor Gandalf asked him to go to trial and said that the Ministry of Magic would give him a fair deal. Lucius's heart went cold at that time. As we all know, When a group of people who have always had dark arts suddenly tell you that they will deal with you impartially, it usually means they have given up on you. Lucius had almost figured out how to write his will, but he didn't expect that at this moment, things would take a turn for the worse. Professor Gandalf suddenly came to him and told him how to defend himself in court. Lucius breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that he was going to go through the process and receive fair treatment. He was familiar with this. He could have said no earlier. It was shocking, but after reading the confession, Lucius fell into silence. This confession seemed to be fair. First of all, I want to state the situation when I joined the Death Eaters. At that time, Voldemort returned to England and officially began to expand his power under the slogan of restoring the glory of pure blood. My father was one of the people who was deceived by his slogan. And I, who was attending Hogwarts at the time, also joined the Death Eaters. Voldemort's name is deeply rooted in the hearts of the people, but few people actually know his experience. Everyone does not know that the expansion of Voldemort's power is actually divided into two stages. The first stage was when Voldemort himself was studying at Hogwarts. He recruited fellow Slytherins into his ranks, which was the prototype of the Death Eaters. The second stage was when he returned to England after traveling around the world for 10 years. This stage was when the real Death Eaters were formed. At that time, Voldemort had begun to use black magic to transform himself, and his appearance had undergone inhuman changes, but his power had also become stronger because of it, far more powerful than 99% of the wizards in the world. The scaly claws of secrets from the past made everyone unable to help but listen carefully to the statement of this quite famous criminal among the Death Eaters. In Lucius's statement, he did not join the Death Eaters on his own initiative, and his life as a Death Eater was not pleasant. Mr. Bernard, I apply to use the scales of Anubis on this criminal. Arthur Weasley couldn't help but get up again. As an old man who joined the Order of the Phoenix during the last Wizarding War, his hatred of Death Eaters was extraordinary, and Bernard did not reject his idea. Lucius, are you willing to use the scales of Anubis to prove that all of your statements are true? I do. Lucius took a deep breath and watched Bernard use Anubis's scale on him. He watched his heart leave his body and fall to one end of the scale under the influence of invisible force. A bar naturally emerged from the other end. Ostrich feathers. Then, Lucius repeated his previous statement. Arthur stared at the scale the whole time, but the scale did not tilt toward one end until the end. How is this possible? Why is it impossible? Do you think I am willing to serve a master who always uses the Cruciatus curse to punish incompetent subordinates, and the reward is usually a master of black magic? I haven't gone to the battlefield before, so what's the use of that kind of thing? Lucius said bluntly. He is the head of the Malfoy family. What is useful to him is not the knowledge of dark magic, but power and money. However, Voldemort only spends the Malfoy family's money from the beginning to the end, and basically never sees the money coming back. As for rights, Voldemort didn't win, and what he said about pure blood supremacy was just a slogan shouted casually to reasonably torture muggles, and of course there was no such thing compared to his sister-in-law who was devoted to Voldemort. Lucius was a refined and self-interested businessman. He only wanted to choose the side that was more beneficial to him. Unfortunately, he couldn't help but join the Death Eaters. When he saw Voldemort clearly, it's too late. Arthur was stunned by Lucius's sudden questioning, especially since Lucius's heart was still on Anubis scale during this process, and the scale was still balanced. He didn't lie. Lucius continued to look at Bernard and said, Mr. Bernard, I voluntarily surrendered after Voldemort died and the Death Eaters were arrested. Before that, I had left the Death Eater organization and served as an assistant professor at Hogwarts. I hope these actions can let me get a reduced sentence, and if the sentence allows, I would also like to apply for probation. If the above words are still within everyone's understanding, then Lucius' next words will directly burn the CPUs of a large number of people in the court. In addition, my home, the Malfoy Mansion, was illegally occupied and destroyed by Voldemort after I escaped from the Death Eaters and entered Hogwarts. I hope to sue the Death Eaters and recover part of the losses. Can it still be like this? Everyone couldn't help but look at Bernard. This is a reasonable request. Bernard glanced at Anubis's scale, thinking that the scale could only judge whether a person was lying, but could not judge the truth of the matter. The words he spoke were as steady as ever. Since the property losses caused by Death Eaters in various parts of the wizarding world are still being counted, the identification, judgment and compensation of property losses will be unified in the end, and this court will take your accusation into consideration. The Clerk on one side of the court noted this point after the questioning and statement. Lucius, who had not lied throughout the whole process, finally breathed a sigh of relief as he watched his heart return to his chest. Although he knew he was not lying, it was really creepy to watch his heart beating somewhere else, and he could not get used to it at all. Then, next, this court will announce the verdict on the defendant Lucius Malfoy. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Bernard. Lucius Malfoy confessed to his crimes, but considering that he surrendered himself, was coerced during the crime, and did not actively cause the death of others. When Bernard said this, he couldn't help but look at Lucius Malfoy. Strangely, Lucius was a well-known figure among the Death Eaters. He really stayed in the back to pay money and never killed anyone personally. It was really, I guess Voldemort didn't want this money bag to have an accident on the battlefield. Speculating inwardly, Bernard added the sentence for Lucius, sentenced to 30 years in prison, with probation, but the defendant must work at Hogwarts during this period, and must report any trips outside of Hogwarts and his residence, and must regularly cooperate with the Ministry of Magic's inspections. Bernard explained the conditions of probation one by one, basically changing the cell where Lucius was imprisoned to his home in Hogwarts, and the conditions were slightly more relaxed. Of course, this was from Lucius's point of view, but in the eyes of those who knew what the new Azkaban was like, it was a great relaxation of the conditions of imprisonment. Chapter 279. We all have a bright future. Does the defendant Lucius Malfoy accept the above? Except, after saying this, Lucius breathed a sigh of relief, inexplicably feeling as if a mountain had been lifted off his body. Perhaps the life in Hogwarts in the past few years has really changed him, or perhaps he was too scared when he first knew that he was going to be tried. At this moment, Lucius knew that his past crimes had really been tried. He no longer had to rush to sell the things related to dark magic in his home before the Ministry of Magic search for fear of being suspected of being a Death Eater. Arthur Weasley always thought that his search was a great threat to him, but he didn't know that even if those dark magic items were found, he would at most be seized by the Ministry of Magic to extort another sum of money. He chose to take action because the loss would be smaller, but from now on, there is no need to worry anymore. I wonder what Arthur's expression will be when he sees me looking calm next time he comes to search my house. Lucius just thought about it, and suddenly remembered that the Malfoy old house had become a ruin under Voldemort's calamity, and the antiques, books and other collections inside were also destroyed. After careful calculation, his family's current property, except for those in the vault, seems to be only the salary that the couple earned from working in Hogwarts in the past few years. The smile gradually disappeared. Jiff pay money. Death Eaters must pay money. Lucius decided to write a few letters towards the Ministry of Magic after returning to Hogwarts, at least to get back the money for rebuilding his house, because they were afraid of Voldemort's revenge. Their family of three had lived in Hogwarts in the past few years. Originally, they were professors, and Malfoy was a student, so there was no problem living in Hogwarts. But this year Malfoy has graduated, and he can't still live in Hogwarts. Wait, it seems that it's not impossible. Thinking of his son's good grades, thinking of Hogwarts' recent plan to recruit trainee professors, and thinking of the Death Eaters that might not be caught outside, Lucius fell into thinking in the courtroom. Bernard, who had finished the trial of the second person, took a deep breath. Lucius's successful defense made everyone realize that the new law is indeed warm sunshine, guiding people to be good. As long as you don't want to do evil in your heart, you can strive for leniency even if you are coerced into committing a crime. Don't worry about not being able to prove your innocence. Anubis's scale will judge whether what you say is true. Everything is going very well at present, but the highlight is coming. Bellatrix will not react at all because of her special state. Lucius is half a shell. The situation he will face in the subsequent trial will be far more complicated and uncontrollable than now, and he also doesn't know what tricks those original vested interests will come up with. Although Adam can directly suppress everyone with force, that deviates from Bernard's original intention of writing this law for the wizarding world. Magic amplifies desires and catalyzes sins, but it also increases the means to combat sins and restrain desires. The real rule of law that can never be completely realized in the Muggle world may, no, it will definitely be realized in his hands. Bang! Take down a defendant. Hey, isn't this Amin? Long time no see. Why do you look a little haggard? The original Hogsmeade village, now Hogsmeade, is now undergoing large-scale construction, and only a few shops are still open. For example, where Adam and Amin are now, the original Three Broomsticks bar, now the Nightingale bar. What a good question, Amin. was entangled with a tangible resentment, looking at Adam and speaking faintly about changing from a rating system to a 150-point system. Almost every course has 2 exams, written and practical, and a full 3 months of review before the exam. Do you have any clues, Adam? Is that so? Well, I heard about it for the first time. Adam tilted his head and blinked in confusion. Hard, fists hard. However, the memory of being beaten up by the other party suddenly flashed back in his mind, and Amen felt that how could such a gentle and elegant person like him solve the problem with force? This is not good, not good. Okay, don't think about those bad past events. How about a glass of dream? Adam snapped his fingers, and 2 goblets appeared on the round table between the 2 of them, and the dreamy liquid in the cup seemed to be flowing like stars. Is this the legendary dream? It has a unique price in the Nightingale bar, which has a high consumption level. A cup costs a full 100 gold galleons. It is said to have a dreamy taste, which is a delicacy that can only be found in dreams, but the more widely known title is Nightingale's Mercy because it does not cheat the poor. What kind of wine can be delicious enough to be worth 100 galleons a cup? Do you know how many delicious meals you can eat at the Storm restaurant with this money? Profiteer, ho, spit. Regulus Storm restaurant owner Nightingale bar owner Black. Regulus was also helpless about this situation. Other wines were fine, but the price of dream was set by Adam himself, and he was not allowed to taste it. He did think about asking people who had tasted it to share their experiences, but even if everyone who had tasted it insisted that it was really a taste that only existed in dreams, most people still believed that it was just a self-deception after discovering that they had been cheated out of 100 galleons. Well, this controversial wine is indeed extraordinary. Amen's spiritual perception allowed him to discover something extraordinary about the dream. After shaking the goblet, Amen put down the cup of sweet dreams and looked at Adam. You'd better tell me why you came to me first. Adam raised his eyebrows. Oh, don't you want to taste it first? No, I'd better listen first and then consider whether to taste it. He still remembered that the last time Adam asked him to divine the whereabouts of Eugene's parents, no matter where he hid, he would be forced to divine. Amen recalled that it was really a bitter tear, so this time he planned to be cautious. Don't worry, it's not a bad thing. All subjects at Hogwarts are currently recruiting more professors. Most subjects are going very well, except for one class, that is the divination class. There are too few talented people in this area. There are only 2 divination professors in Hogwarts, Professor Trelawney and Professor Forenza. Adam shook his head. I have already planned to cancel this course in basic education, leaving only a divination class in the 1st grade when everyone is under the least academic pressure, so that everyone can get in touch with it and see if they have relevant talents. So, you're going to let me teach divination classes to 1st-year students? Amen nodded. This is still negotiable. No. Professor Forenza teaches 1st-year students. On the one hand, Professor Trelawney's character is not suitable for children who are new to magic. I'm afraid of scaring them. On the other hand, Adam explained, although he was abandoned by his tribe, Professor Forenza still couldn't adapt to life in human society and decided to spend most of his time in the Forbidden Forest. Therefore, he applied to reduce his class hours, and I agreed. So, Amen blinked and pointed at himself. You plan to let me, a recent graduate, teach those who have also graduated from 7th grade? Chapter 280. Even Adam has things he is not good at? Why not? Adam shrugged. Not to mention your other achievements, don't you still have confidence in divination? Although it feels like you're praising me, the first half of this sentence is actually unnecessary. Amen's eyes twitched. What a boy. He said you have nothing to do with those perverted exams at Hogwarts. By the way, how did you know my grades? Maybe I heard it mentioned by the house elves in the kitchen. Amen's eyelids twitched. Only a ghost would believe such a thing, but what Adam said is indeed worth considering. The employment environment is now very different from before. Logically speaking, having just experienced the ravages of Voldemort, the wizarding world is in dire straits, and the job market should be very tight. This is indeed the case, but in Amen's eyes, this tightness is just a bubble. With Adam buying Hogsmeade and half of Diagon Alley, the situation of many industries is currently unclear, not to mention that the Ministry of Magic seems to be making big moves. He may not be able to work within a few months of joining the job. Get fired. Not to mention anything else, the results of Amen's own divination were all chaotic, so much so that he has been hesitating until now. After graduation, being a professor at Hogwarts wasn't impossible, At least it was stable, safe, and the environment was familiar to him. And although students were now under increasing pressure to study, the lives of professors were much easier. Looking at Amon's thoughts, Adam nodded silently. Even though there was a shortage of professors in the divination class, he was not inferior to other professors in terms of ease. After all, if students don't have the talent for divination, then learning divination can at best increase their knowledge, and naturally there won't be so much study pressure and tasks. Even if Professor Trelawney wanted to, Professor McGonagall wouldn't allow it. This is also one of the reasons why Adam plans to cancel the divination class in the basic education stage. That is to say, the divination class is an elective and not everyone can take it. Otherwise, the terrible situation of your Professor Trelawney is sick and takes leave will appear in Hogwarts. Although Adam wanted the students at Hogwarts to spend more time studying, he also didn't want this kind of bad things to spread in Hogwarts. It didn't take long for Amon to make his decision. No problem, I can go to Hogwarts to teach at any time. I'm just waiting for your invitation. You won't regret your decision today. Adam smiled slightly, picked up his dream and said to Amon, "So, cheers." It was so reassuring to enjoy the delicious food after talking. Amon also raised the dream and toasted with Adam, and then took a sip. For a moment, Amon's eyes widened. "Enjoy it. I have other things to do. Let's go first." Adam stood up immediately as he said that. He was going to see if everything went well with Bernard. Wait a minute. After recovering from the shock of the dream, Amon fortunately did not forget the business and expressed his question. "I am now considered half a professor at Hogwarts. Can you tell me what job you hold at Hogwarts?" "As for working in the kitchen, impossible, absolutely impossible." Adam smiled slightly, turned into Gandalf, and then paraded away from the place, leaving only Amon, who was shocked and gasped with sweet dreams. "You can't do this." Adam heard such a roar as soon as he arrived at the scene. He turned his head and saw a silver-haired witch roaring in the dock. It could be seen that she had been living a pampered life, but the treatment she received as a prisoner in the past few days had left her with no trace of the demeanor she should have had. Her family contributed when the Ministry of Magic was established. Most of the funds for the Ministry of Magic come from us. How dare you? Who gave you the power to judge me? Let your minister come out to see me. Quiet. Bernard's hammer came down, and it was really effective at that second, but after the dizziness passed, the witch still kept screaming. She believed that Bernard was not qualified to talk to her at all, and demanded to talk directly to the current minister. Bernard's lips formed a thin line and veins appeared on his neck if possible. He really wanted to throw a cruciatus to him, but no. Cruciatus can be used on the enemy and can be used as a punishment, but the opponent has not been officially sentenced yet. Silent. And silent. A spell struck from outside the court and hit the witch, so the whole court fell silent. "Bernard, why do you let her continue to disrupt the order of the court?" Eugene stepped in from the door. Seeing him, the witch suddenly became excited, but she couldn't speak when she opened her mouth. The wand was not at hand and she couldn't break the spell. She could only slap the railing in front of her to make a sound. Silently, the bailiffs keep an eye on her and don't let her cause any more trouble. Eugene fired another shot on the railing, ordered the bailiff, then ignored the witch, walked towards Bernard and whispered, "Percy came to me and said there was some commotion on your side. I thought this little scene wouldn't trouble you, but I didn't expect to see you looking so helpless." Bernard frowned and shook his head. "I am the Chief Justice now. No one can be perfect, Bernard. Even Adam has things he's not good at." Adam, who was sitting in the corner, slowly typed a question mark. "You can't be so harsh on yourself. You must make everyone accept your law, especially a defendant who is undergoing your trial." Eugene now cast a look at the witch. "Can you guarantee that every defendant is emotionally stable and accepts the court's verdict?" "Obviously not." "Then what will they do when they are emotionally unstable?" Bernard was silent for a while before speaking. "I want to do better than them. That will take time. Rome was not built in a day. Look at the laws and scales on your desk. You have achieved justice that no court in the world can do." The sudden voice did not belong to either of them, but it made both of them brighten their eyes. However, after looking around, Bernard did not see Adam. "He is like this now. Sometimes you can't see where he is." Eugene lowered his voice to explain, "I'm in the leftmost position in the last row of the audience. Don't worry about me. Continue your trial." The two people's eyes fell on that side, and they saw Adam smiling. The other people in the court noticed their eyes and looked over, but they only saw them looking at the back of the audience. There was no one there either. By the way, Eugene, I'm curious about what I'm not good at. Come to me and let's talk. Eugene's smile froze when he saw Adam. Laws are not for people to hear. People have heard too many empty words and big words for too long. Laws are for people to see. Use practical actions to show everyone what your laws are like. This is something that takes a long time to do. After Adam said something to Bernard, he looked at Eugene, and the smile on his face became dangerous. Ahem. The trial continues. Bernard patted Eugene on the shoulder to say goodbye to his brother, and then adjusted his mentality and re-entered the trial. Chapter 281. What Adam is not good at is. So, Eugene, my friend, what is something that even I am not good at? As soon as Eugene sat down, he heard Adam's gentle voice. Ahem. Adam, calm down first. There are so many people here, it won't look good if you fight. Eugene's big body shook visibly, and he explained quickly, you don't want to see the headline of tomorrow's newspaper being why the Minister of Magic was beaten up in court. Don't worry, they can't see it. Why sit so far away? Come closer. Adam put his arm on Eugene's shoulder, seemingly friendly but actually pulling him closer. Ahem, that is actually knowing that he would be in trouble today if he didn't tell the truth. Eugene's brain was working fast, and suddenly he thought of something Adam was not good at, dating. You have never been in love, right? This, Adam blinked his eyes. If it was anything else, even if Eugene said giving birth, he could make one on the spot, but dating, well, he really had no experience in this aspect in his two lives combined. In his previous life, he had never thought about this kind of thing at all. In this life, he was making great progress in the practice of magicians. On the one hand, he didn't have the time to think so much, and on the other hand, he didn't have so much energy to pay attention to other people, and he must be able to live forever now, but the anchoring method is not universal. The only way he can extend the life of others is the longevity medicine made by the magic stone. Imagine that after decades, he is still young, but his partner is already gray-haired and wrinkled. At least Adam, who hasn't fallen in love with anyone yet, thinks this is quite scary. Frightened by that assumption, Adam shook his head and admitted that he really couldn't handle this matter. Well, you're right, I really have no experience in this matter. After Adam finished speaking, he found that Eugene's mood was not right. This was, oh? You have something? When did it happen? How do you know? Eugene widened his eyes, and then couldn't help showing a sweet smile on his face. It's not certain yet. I plan to go to Nightingale with Melissa for a drink when I have free time in a few days, and then confess to her. Huh? Such a strong sour smell. Adam sat further away in disgust, and then recalled Melissa, and found that there was no such person in his memory. Who is Melissa? Is she from the Ministry of Magic? No. She was originally a girl I met when I was running the camp. She is very thoughtful. Mother, she helped me a lot. Eugene shook his head and explained, but now she doesn't want to follow the others in the camp to join the Ministry of Magic. She plans to go back to run her family's magical plant shop in Dorset. She chose to join us because her family's magical plant garden was destroyed by Death Eaters. Dorset. I remember Professor Scamander lives there. Adam nodded, and couldn't help but feel a little curious. What's her personality like? Is she pretty? Oh, by the way, how old is she this year? When asking the question, Adam suddenly thought that all the little wizards in the UK with magic and younger than Eugene should be in Hogwarts at that time, excluding the possibility that Eugene should be punished to the point of being hated by both humans and gods and dragged out to be cut into pieces and then beheaded by dogs or cannons. Melissa must be older than Eugene. Thinking of this, Adam looked at Eugene with a little more inexplicable scrutiny. I didn't expect that you, a guy with thick eyebrows and big eyes, who didn't make any noise in Hogwarts all these years, actually like the older sister type. Ahem. She is only 2 years older than me. She just graduated from Hogwarts last year, Eugene hurriedly clarified, followed by a series of difficult-to-understand words, such as 2 years older is not old, what does true love have to do with age, etc., which made Adam laugh, and the court was full of a happy atmosphere. It can only be said that it is a good thing that there is a psychology invisible, otherwise Bernard will definitely kick them out for disrupting the court. After laughing, Adam planned to leave. He came here mainly to see Bernard when he was a child. This guy read the files as children's books. He was very clear about his thoughts that he could be punished and handcuffed, but in his heart, He actually hoped to create a world with a high degree of legal system, where the law can truly bring fair and just judgments to the world. This awkwardness is exactly the same as his awkwardness with emotion. So just like worrying that Uther would suffer a loss when fighting with others because of the dual skills he learned were too decent, Adam was also worried that Bernard would suffer a loss when the court was in session because he was too decent. Yes, he was not worried that he was too punishable, but that he was too decent because Bernard knew that his ideas were punishable. He would deliberately demand himself for the ideal world of rule of law and must pursue justice in everything. The result was obvious. Adam's guess about the bad habits of these guys was really accurate, otherwise how could he be able to trap them every time? But Eugene is here now, so he doesn't need to pay too much attention. I'll give you a friendly reminder, let your girlfriend change her job. If the magic botanical garden at home hasn't been repaired yet, don't repair it, and repair it as soon as possible, Adam reminded Eugene before leaving. In the near future, when the Ministry of Magic takes back the economic power from Gringotts, Adam plans to start building his own capital empire and dump goods to the wizarding world of other countries. In this process, the business of planting and selling magic plants will undoubtedly be directly destroyed by Adam. After all, even if it is planted in batches, how can it be more diverse than Adam, who can easily pinch out magic plants of various qualities and varieties with tree cards and flower cards? And how can it be higher than Adam, who can ship thousands of tons with double cards? More importantly, the production cost on Adam's side is a terrible zero at this moment. The wizarding world of various countries in the world does not know that a terrible shadow has slowly enveloped them. Open the door. Free trade? What are you going to do? Eugene was stunned by Adam's words, then nodded without asking more questions, and asked Adam where he was going next. Go ask Professor Dumbledore and the others. I plan to go to the ruins of the Sky Gardens. They seem to know something about it. It should be said that the ruins of the Sky Gardens should be one of the most high-end magic-related places Adam has come into contact with in this world, especially after Adam knew that the Ministry of Magic and the whole world had found nothing there for so many years after becoming the headmaster of Hogwarts. Adam knew that in the era when Hogwarts was established, magic must have been much more prosperous than it is now, and what is hidden in the ruins of the Sky Garden should be an older and more powerful mystery. Adam couldn't help but feel a little curious about it. Chapter 282 The Story of the Sky Garden. Sky Garden. After hearing what Adam said, Professor Grindelwald frowned at first, and then looked at Professor Dumbledore, with a flash of surprise in his eyes. So you took me out of Nurmengard because of this? Are you afraid that I would break out of prison and look for you after you find out? Ahem. Let's talk about the ruins of the Hanging Garden, Professor. Dumbledore coughed twice and looked at Adam. What do you want to know? What do you know about the ruins of the Hanging Garden? Adam was just curious about the place and didn't have a clear goal at all, so he simply let them talk first. Well, Professor. Dumbledore frowned and thought for a while. Thinking about it, Adam could go in and out of there at will. Even without his information, it would not prevent him from exploring there. He said that it would also make Adam less likely to be in danger possible. While he was still hesitating, Professor Grindelwald spoke first. As for the ruins of the Hanging Garden, the records we saw at that time can't even be said to be records, but stories similar to the story of the three brothers, which said, the greatest group of wizards at that time usurped the power of Apsu and Tiamat, and built a wizarding country that would never fall to the ground and have spring all year round. Kings from all directions were prostrate at their feet. The following paragraphs mixed with damage and stains. It was difficult to tell and could not be connected into words. At the end of the story, it was said that their actions had resulted in divine punishment and they were shot down from the sky. The kingdom of wizards that never fell to the ground has since fallen underground, and the power of God has once again returned be manifested. Is this so? Adam nodded in understanding. However, there is very little effective information in this story, and it can even be said that there is almost no information. Thinking about it, this kind of story is similar to the story of the three brothers. Only a small part of it can be believed. For example, the power of God in this story can be completely ignored, at least so far. Adam has seen the Deathly Hallows and the scales of Anubis, but he has never seen any gods, and he has not found any powerful power left in those so-called artifacts currently. Among the living creatures related to gods, he has only seen a kobold pretending to be Anubis, who is now showing him the gate if there really is a god on this world. Adam said, come more, come faster, let him have a taste. Speaking of the two gods in this story, Apsu, Adam was not too impressed, but Tiamat, A huge dragon lady with X-shaped pupils appeared in Adam's mind. If I remember correctly, they seem to be the creation gods in Mesopotamian mythology. After telling what he knew, Grindelwald added, "At that time, I wanted to build a world where wizards would rule from the front. I looked for the Hanging Gardens, but there was no clue at all." "Is that ruins real, Professor?" Dumbledore glanced at Professor Grindelwald helplessly. Just as he was about to say something, he heard Adam speak. "I actually don't know very well, but there's indeed a powerful magic there." Adam touched his chin and told his understanding of the ruins of the Hanging Garden. First, the location matched the legend, and then starting from the big hole that prohibited flying, to the tree. Professor Grindelwald's eyes shone brightly when he heard this, and he was almost certain that this was where the legendary Hanging Garden fell. But then Professor Grindelwald sighed. He was too old. If there were really ruins of the Hanging Gardens, then he would almost certainly die if he went to explore them. If time could be turned back, it wouldn't take more than 50 years, and he would definitely have the courage to sacrifice in order to explore the Hanging Garden. But now he is no longer young, and at the end of his life he just wants to give himself some comfort. As for the ideal of changing the world, he has given it to Adam. Professor Grindelwald glanced at Adam and couldn't help but smile. Adam's dream was more likely to come true than it was before. Seeing that Professor Grindelwald really had no idea about the Hanging Garden ruins, Adam nodded secretly, and then asked, "Professor Grindelwald, what seems to have occurred to you?" "Well, according to my guess, there is a high probability that there are ruins of the Hanging Garden, Professor." Grindelwald made a hand movement that he often does during lectures. "As for the valuable parts there, I suggest you explore them. Based on what you said, I think you can focus on the lake you saw when you entered the pit, and the underground area where the giant golden tree is space." "Oh? What do you say?" Adam looked at Professor Grindelwald. Although his current knowledge of magic is definitely not small, whether it is what he learned when he was learning Crow's magic or the gift Crow Riddle left for him, gritting his teeth, they basically only revolve around magic itself. As for this kind of experience about the secrets of ancient myths, he is still not as good as Professor Grindelwald and the others, who are well informed and live a long time. Even Voldemort is far more knowledgeable in this regard than him. "You said that the bottom of the lake is probably connected to the sea through an underground river." "I don't think so. First of all, if it was really a hanging garden in the past, there should not be a lake that is transparent from top to bottom and can directly connect to the underground river after landing." While speaking, Professor Grindelwald also made a gesture. If what Adam said is true, then what would the original structure of the Hanging Garden look like? Secondly, it is a magical ruin, and it is a magical ruin sealed by various magics. It's fine if the Phoenix can teleport in and out, but if a magical animal like Kraken can directly enter and exit by swimming, the blockade there may not be strong enough. As you said, it has troubled the Ministry of Magic of so many countries for so many years. Adam nodded, feeling that Professor Grindelwald was right. "So why do you think there are oarfish and kraken in that lake? It can't be that the animals raised by the wizard of the Hanging Garden have survived to this day, right? Where does their food come from? Perhaps it's true that he has lived since then, or maybe it's not necessarily that he was just born." Professor Grindelwald narrowed his eyes and was about to speak when Professor Dumbledore interrupted him. "Tiamat." Professor Grindelwald, who had already opened his mouth to tell the answer, ignoring Professor Grindelwald's gaze, Professor Dumbledore made a comeback and expressed his guess. The two of them knew almost the same information about the Hanging Garden, and naturally they came to similar conclusions. In mythology, Tiamat, the god of salt water, and Apsu, the god of fresh water, gave birth to the gods, and were eventually killed by the gods, and their corpses were used to create heaven and earth. Professor Dumbledore blinked as he spoke, reached out and pushed away Professor Grindelwald's hand that was poking him with a wand, and continued, "Regardless of the possibility that the myth is true, if a lake can give birth to various marine creatures, then it does not seem unreasonable to be said to have usurped the authority of Tiamat and Apsu." Adam suddenly realized, and immediately thought of the giant golden tree standing in the crystal world. So those liquids of crystalline life, maybe it has something to do with the lake, or maybe the power of the lake is related to the giant tree, or maybe the power comes from something else. In short, this power that connects liquid and life should be the most precious thing in the Hanging Garden ruins. Chapter 283. This lake was born to be named Reed. Liquid that can create life, teleporting to the interior of the Sky Garden's ruins. Adam stopped with a pair of wings spread out behind him, and looked at the lake below. In Adam's sight, The aura of magic rippled on the lake, filling the entire lake. These lake waters are indeed special, but I was blinded by a single leaf and missed a big mountain. Meeting the eyes in the lake, Adam raised his eyebrows, stretched out his fingers and lightly tapped the air, and the surging lake water immediately swept the giant in the lake into the air. This is wrapped in the water, and slowly opening and closing is a huge shellfish that is tens of meters high. The shell of the shellfish is wavy and pure white, and the part in the middle that seems to be fleshy is a dreamy blue-purple gradient. This shape makes Adam feel familiar, as if he had seen it when he was a child watching Journey to the West. Flipping through his memory, Adam found its name, giant clam. Such a big giant clam. As the voice fell, Adam became more convinced that the lake water had the ability to create life. The last time Adam fished out the oarfish, he carefully checked the lake and found no giant clams at all. Even though he was not a biology major, he had read some encyclopedias and popular science about many animals. In his memory, once the giant clam passed the larval stage, it would use its silk feet to fix itself on the seabed and could no longer move in the sea. This ruled out the possibility that this giant clam swam into the lake through some kind of underwater channel, so there was only one possibility left. This giant clam appeared in the lake in the past few years and grew so big. Interesting, really interesting. Did the ancient wizards already have such magic technology? Shrinking the water ball in the air and holding it in his hand, Adam looked at the lake below with shining eyes, and at the same time focused on the shore. Although he could not understand how this lake created life, he planned to stare at the inside of the lake and then use time magic to go back to the past. It sounds complicated and troublesome, but Adam thinks the process should be smooth. After all, according to known information, it will not take too long for this lake to create life. The information collected last time emerged in Adam's mind. He didn't pay much attention to it because he was in a hurry to save Eugene's parents. Then he just forgot about it. It was not until now that he started to pay attention again. According to the information from the two silly wizards he met at the lake last time, they first went down to the cave and were attacked by the kraken a few months before Adam arrived, but Adam only encountered an oarfish and did not find any kraken in the lake. At the same time, the oarfish is not a freshwater creature, not even a shallow water creature. That's why he made the speculation that somewhere at the bottom of the lake is connected to the sea, and the oarfish and the kraken are foreign creatures. But now it seems that the oarfish and the kraken are both natives of the lake. But in the past few months, the kraken has turned back into lake water, and the lake water has bred another oarfish. So, the oarfish will turn into water after a while? No, I have eaten it so many times. Eugene even took some home to freeze and eat slowly. If it turned into water, he would definitely come to tell me. Adam touched his chin. So, will it turn into water after living for a while? Or, must it be in this lake for a while before it turns into water? Thinking of this, Adam glanced at the giant clam water ball in his hand. The water ball turned into two into four in a blink of an eye. One water ball was frozen into an ice ball. The water in one water ball was replaced with ordinary seawater, and the other two water balls remained the same. Although giant clams were first-class protected animals in China in the previous life, and catching such animals was quite punishable, Adam also remembered that this shellfish was recorded as having delicious meat. It would be too wasteful to just turn it into water. While thinking, Adam landed on the lakeside. Well, before going back in time, let's taste the legendary giant clam. I hope that such a large size will not make the meat too old. After all, it should not be more than 1 year old. Taking out a set of cooking utensils from his pocket and enlarging it, Adam restored one of the two giant clam water balls that remained in their original state to its original size, and then fell into deep thought. How should giant clams be eaten? I haven't eaten it either. It should be similar to other shellfish. In an instant, Adam's mind flashed through the cooking methods of various shellfish such as clams, bamboo clams, river clams, scallops, mussels, hairy clams, and oysters. Forget it. When in doubt, I'll grill one to taste it first. Waving his hand to throw the lake water wrapped in the giant clam back into the lake, Adam's eyes flashed. The magic calmed the waves on the lake, but the calmed lake water still spread towards the shore. In Adam's impression, the lake water was originally level with the shore. This phenomenon only means one result: the current level of the lake water exceeds the original height. After I drained some of the lake water just now, the water in the lake is increasing again. Think about it carefully. The last time he froze and took away a lot of lake water with the oarfish, but just now he saw that the lake water was still level with the shore originally. Adam didn't care so much. After all, it has been so long, and it is normal for the lake water to change, but now the lake has risen so much water in front of him in just a few minutes. There are only a few sources of water in the lake, either from the sky, atmospheric precipitation, from the ground, surface water, or from the ground, groundwater. The first two can be ruled out, so there's only one possibility. Adam lowered his eyes and looked at the calm surface of the water, and the bottomless lake inside. Should I go back to the past first, or go to the bottom of the lake to find out the source of the lake water? Oh. Look at me, I almost forgot about the main thing because of these. Adam slapped his forehead. Of course, I will garlic this big guy first. How much seasoning and garlic will it take? Shaking his head in some distress, Adam couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. For such a large garlic clam, he could even be so extravagant as not to put vermicelli. Forget it, I still want to eat garlic vermicelli, so make some extra. It is very likely that a field that can grow seafood by itself has been discovered, and it is a variety of seafood that grows randomly in super large sizes. It undoubtedly makes Adam very happy, much happier than the last time when he simply found an oarfish. He likes seafood, and he also likes the surprise of not knowing what seafood he will get next, and he likes this amount that can be eaten for several meals. My God, this lake is born to be named Reed. As the barbecue smoke slowly rose in front of Adam, a thick and short giant tree grew out of thin air at the ground at Adam's feet in the next second. It was less than 100 meters high, but had a diameter that could only be hugged by nearly 100 people. The interior of the giant tree is naturally hollow, forming a space that is divided and can be lived in. At the same time, flowers with faint light bloom inside and outside the tree. In the next period of time, Adam plans to stay here for a few days, carry forward the fine tradition of Hufflepuff, and study the diversity of marine life. Slurp. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284. Captain, I can in number 039, hold on any longer. Adam was wrong. Half an hour later, Adam deeply realized that he was really wrong. After preparing the sauce on the giant clam, the aroma of minced garlic floated with the smoke of burning charcoal, as if some kind of DNA was touched, and he found that what he wanted to eat was far more than just vermicelli with minced garlic. Half an hour later, Adam looked at the 3 rows of barbecue grills in front of him and the dazzling array of grilled skewers on them and fell into deep thought. Beef and mutton, streaky chicken legs, bacon and mushrooms, mushroom rice cakes, steamed buns and gluten, tofu and corn, garlic sprouts and leeks, eggplant and potatoes, even 8-eyed giant spiders and basilisk eyeballs. Forget it, it's just a taste anyway. And it's fine to purify it with a purification card after eating it. It's not a big problem. After choosing for a long time, he found that he couldn't give up any of them, so Adam simply stopped choosing. He wanted them all, in order to prevent the smoke from vertically upwards to attract the attention of the station personnel of the Ministry of Magic of various countries at the entrance of the cave. Adam also deliberately used wind magic to blow the smoke in all directions. Sniff sniff. A twitching sound of the nose sounded, and a pair of eyes suddenly opened in the dark space. Oh my God, am I going to die? I seem to smell the aroma of a barbecue stall. It is said that before a person dies, he will see the most impressive things in his life flashing before his eyes, like a revolving lantern. Is today his revolving lantern? That's right, if he dies at this time, the most impressive thing should indeed be food. But why is it barbecue? The man took a few more deep breaths, and with trembling hands, he grabbed a bowl of stored food, the kind of grass that roasted like leeks, a whole bunch of it roughly tied into a knot, and it can't even be said to have been cooked, but can only be said to be a product stored according to the daily food needs, and stuffed it into his mouth. Feeling the rough texture and the raw grass taste spreading in his mouth, the man's eyes moistened uncontrollably. Mom, I missed the herbal tea you made. Oh, shut up. Another pair of eyes brighter than the sobbing man's suddenly opened. You are not hallucinating, there is really a barbecue smell. Eh? Is that so? The man wiped his eyes and sighed in disappointment, without even sitting up. Is someone else unable to hold on? I thought we were the only ones left underground. This underground ruins is full of dangers that are difficult to detect and resist. Any behavior that easily exposes one's position must be restrained and be careful they didn't dare to light the fire a long time ago. And of course they didn't think that the person who was now barbecuing and had also lived underground for so long would not know this. The other party would do this because he obviously couldn't hold on, and indulged before dying, or took a gamble, but the result of such a gamble was undoubtedly predetermined. The man who spoke later did not refute his words, but just closed his eyes silently again. Although they did not know of each other's existence before, they knew that the other party would soon die in the danger of the underground ruins. Well, soon, not long. Wait a few minutes, Gudong, damn. Why is this fragrance, sniff, seemingly getting stronger? The dry mouth of the man who spoke first became moist for the first time in a long time, and he swallowed heavily, and even couldn't help sitting up. What do you want to do? The man who spoke later opened his eyes and looked at him. Captain, I want to have a bite. The man turned his head to look at the man called the captain. On his dusty face, only a pair of eyes were brighter than ever before. Captain, I'm sorry. I can't seem to hold on any longer. Woo woo woo. Looking at the tears in his eyes, but no tears could flow down his face. He was sad for his own hesitation but still looked straight at his team members, and the captain sighed. Let's go together, Captain. Captain, fuck. Do you think I'm not greedy when I smell this? The captain stood up with his hands on the ground, and his body, which lacked nutrition and exercise, shook slightly because of the movement of getting up. Then, the captain licked his cracked lips and looked in the direction of the fragrance. MD, how many years has it been? No matter what the rules are, we should have been considered dead long ago, right? Continuing to eat grass every day is just a self-deceiving chronic suicide. Rather than starving to death one day when we can't even eat grass, it's better to eat something good before we die. As he spoke, the team member had already struggled to get up, but it was more difficult for him to keep his balance than the captain because he had no part below his calf on one side. Come on, put your hand on my shoulder, let's go. The two supported each other and walked step by step following the fragrance. The meat of the giant clam is really too huge. Out of respect for the virtue of shellfish that comes with its own tableware, although Adam cut the shell meat, he still used the giant clam's own half shell as a container, so the giant clam naturally cooked quite slowly. Fortunately, Adam, who had mastered the fire card, could control the heat carefully, so he didn't have to worry about the giant clam meat becoming half-cooked. At most, he just had to wait a little longer. During this long wait, the skewers were cooked one after another, and Adam finally felt that wasting food was a bad behavior, so he went back and brought Zyok. Sibby and his other cubs, a group of gluttons, ate all the grilled skewers in a few bites, and Adam didn't let them idle on the empty grill. Oh, how can I be so embarrassed? A black shadow flashed by, and Adam had a big black bird in his hand. The black bird was more than half a person tall, and its feathers, beak and claws were all black. Its expression at this time revealed a bit of human confusion. It was clearly hunting just now, and it had attacked its prey, and then, now. Who is it? Where is it? What happened? Another bird. Come on. Bleed it. Pluck the feathers. First burn the hair on the throat and then bleed it. Adam skillfully grabbed the two wings of the blackbird with one hand, and pinched the blackbird's neck with the other hand and stretched forward. Sib picked up the kettle and poured it on the blackbird's neck. Is this really how this bird is treated? Zio K couldn't help but ask as he watched the blackbird wail and struggle because it was doused with boiling water, but was held tightly by Adam. Hey. Chickens, ducks and geese are all treated this way, so what's the difference with this bird? Adam grabbed the blackbird and said casually, no, I mean, can't we use a clean card? Adam was silent for a few seconds, looking at the blood gushing out of the blackbird's neck, and said, in that case, we can collect blood. Let's see if the blood of this bird tastes good when made into blood clots. Zio K wanted to say something, but accidentally saw Sibby shaking his head at him with a serious face, and suddenly swallowed back what he wanted to say. Oh, Adam waited for the bird's blood to be drained, and used a clean card to remove the inedible part of the blackbird, then added the marinated sauce and told Zio K to massage it with a meat pad for half an hour to help it absorb the flavor in order to perfectly preserve the texture and taste of the blackbird. Adam specifically asked Zio K not to wear gloves or use magic. Zio K, who had turned back to his original form, looked at his clean claws, and then at the blackbird meat soaked in the black sauce, and he wanted to cry but had no tears. I know. Chapter 285, Fellow Villagers Meet Fellow Villagers. The two people who followed the scent slowly slowed down their pace. The reason was simple. They found that if they continued in this direction, They would reach the extremely dangerous lake originally. They didn't think there was anything wrong with this direction. After all, they were quite a distance away from the lake. But as they walked further in this direction, the location of the scent became clearer. "Captain, am I really not hallucinating?" The team member couldn't help but speak with a bit of confusion on his face, supporting his body with his sword. "Is it true that someone can barbecue by the lake and not be attacked by the monsters in the lake for so long?" The captain looked ahead without saying a word, his eyes flickering. He was a little unsure now. Thinking about it carefully, it was a bit absurd that the aroma of barbecue would appear in this underground ruins. It stands to reason that there should be no new people coming into the ruins now, and how could the old man who struggled to survive in the ruins still have such a stock? He even smelled the aroma of minced garlic and cumin. Could it be that this fragrance comes from the monster in the lake, a psychedelic smell used to attract prey, as people who once had a strong desire to survive and have been struggling to survive in the ruins until now? They have explored the lake more than once, and naturally know that there are more than one kind of monsters in the lake, and there may even be some monsters. It seems possible that a monster with psychedelic abilities will appear, such as the legendary Mirage. The two stood in silence for a while, and finally chose to move forward. "We have come this far. If we turn around like this, I will regret it when I die of hunger." The captain's words strengthened the team members' belief. "Indeed, we have come this far. So how can we stop here?" The two continued to move forward, but as they got closer to the lake, their steps became more and more cautious, always alert to possible dangers. But the journey was so smooth that it made people feel uneasy. "Strange, we were attacked before. Why did everything quiet down the closer we got to the lake?" According to their experience, the creatures around the lake would periodically become active. Even if this period was not the most active, it should not be so quiet. Perhaps they were really attracted to the monsters in the lake to hunt. Even though they were more and more certain of this possibility, they still insisted on moving forward and forward. Neither of them said it out loud, but they all knew that after the consumption on the way, they no longer had the strength to return to the starting point. So even if they died, they had to die with a clear mind. Adam paused while eating the squid tentacles, and couldn't help but look up and look into the distance. "Humans, are the people in this ruins not all dead yet?" According to the records of the British Ministry of Magic, it has been a long time since the last time people were sent. Could it be that other countries were still unwilling to give up and sent people again after that? While thinking, Adam glanced at the things and creatures around him. He didn't care about being exposed, but the posture of traveling with a family was indeed a bit scary. Maybe he could get some useful information from the other party. That is, seeing the scene in the distance, the two couldn't help but stop unexpectedly. Someone was actually barbecuing. Gudong. In an instant, the fragrance lingering on the tip of the nose became real, and a force that came from nowhere urged them to rush in that direction quickly. On the other side, Adam, who had just put Zyok and the others away, looked at the two savages approaching and was stunned for a moment. This. He didn't really meet the people who survived in the wilderness of the ruins until today, and the group of people sent to the ruins by various countries before. Hello. After approaching, seeing Adam, the team members carefully greeted him. He was still not sure whether the scene in front of him was real. Hearing the familiar language, Adam blinked. "Are they Chinese?" And from the looks of it, it seems that they were people who went down to the ruins before. How did they survive until now? Thinking that Adam didn't understand what he was thinking, the captain patted the team member on the shoulder and greeted him again in English. The team member suddenly realized that the other party was obviously a foreigner, and it was impossible for him to understand Chinese, so he switched to English fluently. They only knew this foreign language, so they hoped that the other party could understand. Adam came back to his senses, looked at the two people, and showed a friendly smile. "Hello." Adam hoped that the other party, as someone who had survived in the ruins for so long, could provide him with effective information. However, after he calmly guided the other party to recall everything he had encountered during this period, Adam sighed. The other party did survive in the ruins for a long time, but it was limited to survival. The range of activities was very limited, and the degree of exploration of the surroundings was also very low. It can be said that the limit of their exploration of the ruins of the Sky Garden was the first time when everyone teamed up to explore, and Adam had already inquired about the whole process of that exploration when he came to rescue Eugene's parents. Before I have to say, disappointing. Looking at the two people who were wolfing down the skewers, Adam couldn't help but think about what kind of damage it would cause to the body if people suddenly ate such greasy food after a long period of malnutrition. However, the physique of wizards should be better than that of muggles. Never mind. Adam then thought about what would happen next. He just introduced himself as an independent explorer, so it was natural for him to consult two experienced predecessors about the situation in the ruins, but he didn't plan to take these two burdens with him next. But then again, this time when he entered the ruins, he actually met two fellow villagers who had survived so hard. This fate was unique. Adam felt that he should take advantage of it. Adam thought about how to get the two people out. First of all, he ruled out taking them out. If they went out, they would become the only two people who had left the ruins known to the outside world. No matter what they thought or said, countries would inevitably have a desire to explore the Sky Garden again. Adam didn't want too many people to disturb him during his exploration. He didn't care where they went to die after he finished his exploration. I don't want to take them with me, but I can't let them go back now, so, snap, Adam snapped his fingers, and a golden red flame suddenly ignited in the air. Soon Fox emerged from the flame. Fox, take them to the secret base. You know, the secret base in the Forbidden Forest was originally where Adam did experiments. After Adam's laboratory expanded to the entire Forbidden Forest, it was half abandoned, but the various protective magics that isolated the inside and outside were still in effect, just right for the two fellow villagers to stay temporarily. As for why Adam could summon Fox, taking advantage of Adam's visit to the ruins of the Sky Gardens, Professor Dumbledore gave Fox to Adam. According to him, he no longer needs Fox's protection, and he has no descendants who can inherit Fox's. For Ariana, she will have her own phoenix, and Professor Dumbledore doesn't need to worry about her. Adam and Fox have such a good relationship, so he is the best person for Fox to entrust. Chapter 286. The Babylonian got in charge of seafood farming. After seeing off the two fellow villagers and finishing all the other barbecues, Adam cleaned up the debris around him and walked to the lake with a giant clam shell in his hand. The giant clam meat in half of the giant clam shell exuded a burst of fragrance. Adam reached out and picked up a piece and put it in his mouth. Oh, the meat is firm, tender and rich, delicious and juicy. The seasoning is a bit too much. In fact, a few grains of salt are enough. As he spoke, Adam stepped into the lake. At this moment, he seemed to be Moses who divided the sea. Wherever he passed, the lake water was automatically pushed in all directions. His destination was the center of the lake bottom. Could it be that someone really thought that he had a barbecue for so long by the lake just for eating? In the process, he carefully observed the entire lake and used the magic of water cards to study the lake water. The results showed that the lake water did have magic, but the source of the magic was not the lake water itself. If the conclusion he drew from his observation and inference was correct, there should be what he wanted in the center of the lake bottom. Soon, Adam came to the center of the lake and casually collected the giant clam shell that had been eaten. If I remember correctly, the shell of this thing is also quite valuable. Although he had a clean card, he still rubbed his hands subconsciously. Adam opened his palm towards the land at the bottom of the lake in front of him, and a complex magic circle was formed in his palm in an instant. Without the interference of the lake water, it is clearer to see. It is hard to imagine how the wizards of that era created such a magnificent magic structure. The land at the bottom of the lake kept surging, lifting the lower layer of soil. Adam was also distracted to maintain the magic structure originally located at the bottom of the lake from being destroyed. Finally, a huge sphere emerged from the land at the bottom of the lake. This is the real source of the power of this lake. Let's call you Tiamat. Adam caught Tiamat and held it in his palm, and stuffed the original Tiamat back into the ground. In the process of digging Tiamat, the entire magic structure at the bottom of the lake was touched, and Adam was able to know the effect of this magic: absorption, diffusion, and reconciliation. In simple terms, this is a magic that can extract the power from Tiamat and then merge it into the lake above. With Adam's current magical attainments, he can quickly use the magic circle to reproduce the same magic effect, so a small magic circle soon appeared in Adam's palm, and Tiamat, who was held in his palm, was instantly extracted from a part of its power. Strange, the extracted power actually exists directly in the form of liquid. Although it is liquid, the water card does not have much effect on it, because it is not water in a broad sense, but a certain power that exists in liquid form. It's worth studying, but there's no rush. Adam put away the magic circle and carefully examined the Tiamat in his hand. It looks almost exactly like the ball on the golden giant tree, but one is used in the lake and the other is used on the tree. Do they have different powers? Or are they actually the same thing, but they are used in different ways, and the power that can create this kind of Tiamat has another source? With this idea in mind, Adam came to the ball on the golden giant tree, which he temporarily named Apsu. While obtaining Apsu, he also found something strange. Crack, a piece of crystal on the giant tree was violently broken. Adam reached into the liquid in the crystal shell and fished out the silver object. Is this a belt buckle? Adam looked at it for a few seconds and remembered what this metal object should have been. Please forgive him. He has been in the wizard world for a long time, and he really hasn't seen this thing for a long time. Some of those wizards don't even wear pants. There was only a metal belt buckle in the crystal, which made Adam think about it. Perhaps some time ago, there was a complete person in this crystal, and then, will the flesh and blood body be dissolved in this liquid? This is in line with the divination intention of the no card at the beginning. Adam held the metal buckle and looked at the broken crystal. In his mind, he imagined a human body disappearing inside the crystal. In addition to the body, did the clothes and even the belt dissolve together? Why? Because those are organic matter? And the belt buckle was not dissolved because it is metal. In the process of guessing, Adam observed almost all the traces of magic around him. The magic arranged on Apsu is different from the magic on Tiamat just now. It may be a different way of using the same power, or it may be a different development of different powers. Adam can go back and study slowly, and even pack up the lake and this underground space as a whole and take Professor Grindelwald away to study together. Why does Hogwarts want to carry out higher-level education and academic research? Isn't it for this? If we can study these wizard creations from the mythical era, wizards will be a century ahead of muggles in seafood farming. I don't think the focus should be on seafood farming, Professor. Grindelwald was so excited after hearing Adam's words that he was left speechless. The wizards at that time relied on this power to directly rule all the surrounding countries and built a magic fortress like the Sky Garden that could float in the air. Are you going to use this power to raise seafood? This is like, I told you that nuclear bombs are very destructive, but you told me that using nuclear power to barbecue is very fast. I think what Adam said is very good. We should not study this power with the mentality of studying weapons, Professor. Dumbledore looked at Professor Grindelwald with a hint of admonishment and warning in his tone. Don't forget what the wizards who put this power into rule ultimately faced. Adam's current exploration of the Sky Garden has made little progress, but he still has no clue as to what exactly happened to the Sky Garden in the first place to cause it to suddenly fall. Okay, what you said makes sense, Professor. Grindelwald shrugged. At least I can enjoy my taste by figuring out how to raise seafood. If I really want to build a powerful weapon, I won't be able to use it. The two old men were still bickering, while the young versions of Dumbledore and Grindelwald on the other side were already engaged in research, but soon their attention was no longer on the Tiamat and Apsu that Adam had brought back, but on the magic circle that Adam had arranged around them. Exquisite, stable, perfect. The young man Grindelwald looked at every line of the magic circle with gleaming eyes, and turned to look at Adam eagerly. Is this something that originally existed in the ruins of the Hanging Garden? Huh? No, this is something I have improved. The magic in the Hanging Garden ruins is too cumbersome. I have brought back the entire environment where they were originally located. They are now in a special area of the Forbidden Forest. I will take you there later. Look. Adam touched his chin as he spoke. Why did he seem to have forgotten something? Probably not. He has a photographic memory now, and at most he can ignore some things. If he ignores them, it means they are not important. Then forget it. Chapter 287. All evil will be brought to justice. Sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment. In the court, Bernard was delivering the verdict. However, at this moment, the defendant, who had been silent in the dock, could not help but stand up. Okay, let's stop here for the credence. I was just controlled by the mysterious man's imperious curse before. Bernard was not annoyed when the trial was interrupted. He skillfully reached out and pointed at the scale on the table. So, Mr. Avery, are you going to apply to defend yourself? Then please note that any lie you say next will make your heart farewell to you forever. Little Avery was stunned and watched in astonishment as his heart flew out of his chest and landed on the golden scale. What are you doing? Isn't it just to pay money? Why do you want to make it look like the real thing? The wizards in the court all turned pale, especially the wizards at the trial. During this period of time, they had been informed by countless defendants about how corrupt the former Ministry of Magic was. If it were the original model of the Wizengamot, it would be fine. No matter how embarrassed you are, you can still be considered one of your own. However, the current court has a gallery. As long as you are free and have passed the identity verification, you can come in and observe, and you will lose your face directly. The entire British wizarding world has gone, without even turning their heads. They could all guess what the wizards in the gallery thought of them. At this moment, they just wanted to dig out the previous ministers of magic, especially Fudge, from the ground and whip their corpses. However, no matter how much they wanted to escape from the scene, it was just a delusion after all, and time would not stop for a moment because of their embarrassment. Unfortunately, Mr. Avery, money will not save you even one day from your sentence. Bernard shook his head. The Ministry of Magic is getting really greedy. Okay, I can give you more money, Mr. Avery. If you have nothing valuable to say, then I will proceed with the sentencing. Little Avery's eyes widened. No way? You really plan to sentence me to jail for free? In addition to the money given to the Ministry of Magic, I can give you an extra sum of money. How about 1,000 galleons? Think about it. What will sentencing me to jail do to you? Benefit, please. Don't tarnish my character with money, Mr. Avery. Bernard was speechless for a moment. He shouted so loudly and thought you were so rich. I was a little excited and wanted to charge you with a crime of unknown sources of huge assets. But this is the result. As for the benefit of sentencing you to jail, to me, justice has been served, and that's the biggest benefit. Bernard's words drew small applause from the auditorium. Even though they knew that the order of the court could not be disturbed, Bernard's words still brought tears to the eyes of wizards who knew how corrupt the previous Ministry of Magic was. Sure enough, when Minister Eugene came, the sky was clear. Bernard? Are you kidding? Wait a minute. Let me go. I don't accept it. It shouldn't be like this. I want to see your minister. After watching with his own eyes, little Avery accepted the final sentence, collapsed and struggled and was dragged away by the bailiff. Adam looked at Bernard, who had finished the last trial of the day, and called it a day and said, "You called me here just to see this." After watching several professors research for a day at Hogwarts, Adam lost hope in the wizard's scientific research capabilities, so he chose to go out and relax. I came to the court to watch Bernard's trial of Death Eaters. Just by the way, I mainly looked forward to the day when the first-hand trial was over and I could finally point the finger at the goblins, especially after the time when the United States pretended to be X and no one knew it was him. Gentlemen, he now longs for a war. That's right. This is what I want to see. Bernard waved his fist. This feeling of letting the light of justice shine on the earth is really great. All evil will eventually be brought to justice, right? Adam complained, and then said, then you have to stick to your heart and don't end up sacrificing your roots for the pursuit of justice. The law is just the bottom line of morality. There is still a large gray area between justice and evil. This is the scope of normal people. If Bernard becomes paranoid and wants to judge others based on justice, it would be a mistake. Obsessed. I know that I have been mentally prepared for this kind of thing for a long time, and there will even be legal and moral conflicts in the future. I can only sit in judgment for a whole day like this for a few days, and I am not allowed to have fun for a while. Bernard waved his hand, and then looked at Adam while moving his body that was somewhat stiff after sitting for a day. I heard that you went to the Hanging Garden ruins again. Did you gain anything? Adam touched his chin and thought for a while. Seafood reserves +1. Oh, Bernard's eyes lit up. Borrow a bowl and talk. Hiss. Adam suddenly took a breath of cold air and slapped his fist. I remember what I overlooked. Fellow. You must hold on. Fellow. Just as he was looking forward to the new seafood, he saw Bernard suddenly apparating away from the place after Adam shouted. What is gratifying is that when Adam found the two fellows in the secret base, the two fellows were in good condition, at least according to what they said. There are wild vegetables, fruits and fresh water here, and you can even hunt for voles. It's like a paradise. While talking, the team member handed Adam a rat leg with burn marks. Mr. Adam, you eat too. Looking at the anemone-like growth on the ground that had been removed with its internal organs, Adam recognized that it was a mortal rat that was roasted, and smiled awkwardly. Haha, I'm not hungry. Then, with a phantom pain in his conscience, Adam stopped the two from eating the roasted mortal rat. I'll take you back. Where do you want to go back? To the bases around the ruins or directly to the Hong Kong Island Ministry of Magic? Anyway, for Adam, his exploration of the ruins of the Sky Gardens can come to an end, so it doesn't matter if these two fellow villagers go back. The lake that has been discovered so far that can produce seafood is enough for him to eat for a while, and the research on Tiamat and Abzu has just begun, not to mention that he will have to go to Gringotts to show his strength next. and then he will also need to be in charge of the division of the camps of magical beasts. Adam expected that he would no longer be interested in the ruins of the Sky Gardens for quite some time, so even if the two people who returned triggered a new wave of exploration, it was unknown when Adam would go to the Sky Garden again. Maybe by then Adam could get new information from the new trap people and gain some exploration points. Hearing Adam's words, the two people from the Hong Kong Magic Department were stunned and couldn't help but look at each other. Actually, let them go just like that? Chapter 288 looks good. Love it. More. They will be sent by the Ministry of Magic of Hong Kong Island to explore the ruins of the Hanging Garden. Of course, the two of them cannot be novices. If a new explorer hears about the Hanging Garden ruins and takes the initiative to explore it, then just praise him for being young and promising. If he takes such words seriously, he would be really stupid. Which new explorer would bring a barbecue grill and skewers with him when he goes down to the ruins, and would be brave enough to barbecue directly by the lake where monsters live? This is obviously the beginning of the end for the real bigwigs in the wizarding world, who usually hide themselves. When encountering this situation, the two of them expressed their willingness to cooperate. They just wanted to go back alive, otherwise they would be dead ghosts. As for the information they revealed, they didn't hide anything. After all, Adam didn't ask them any secrets involving national interests, and they didn't know any useful information about the ruins at all. To put it bluntly, with Adam's strength, he would know more than them if he just walked around while eating barbecue. Adam's eyes didn't hide from them when he was thinking about what to do with them. After eating that barbecue, both of them thought they were going to die. Unexpectedly, Adam actually took them out of the Hanging Garden ruins. Oh my god. These days, except for them in China, there are actually people who actually abide by international conventions. Both of them were almost in tears as for being in prison here after coming out. The two of them didn't feel anything was wrong at all. The other party cannot go to the Hanging Garden ruins just for the barbecue. The other party has mastered the method of entering and exiting the Hanging Garden ruins, so he is obviously well prepared in order to protect their interests and ensure that the information is not leaked. It is completely a basic operation. They are very grateful that they did not kill them directly to silence them, and to be honest, the environment here is not bad. There is sunshine and fresh water. Even the grass on the ground is more watery than in the ruins of the Sky Garden, and there are even animals. They are all prepared to be imprisoned here for decades, or even until they die of old age. The outside world and the ministry currently have no idea about their situation. Their survival now depends entirely on the kindness of the other party, so no matter how you think about it, the only way they can be released is probably when the big boss and the forces behind him complete their exploration of the ruins of the Hanging Garden. However, that would expose the fact that someone has obtained the ruins of the Hanging Garden, which is not in line with the normal development of the script. So the greater possibility is to let them die quietly here, without anyone knowing their story. After they die, time will bury the last traces they left in this world. This should be the normal direction of the plot. They have comforted each other, saying that it would be nice to die in such a beautiful place, and expressing their distaste for dying in the same place with each other. They even planned to dig their own graves to avoid the one who dies first. Collect the corpses, and the one who dies later can only be exposed in the wilderness. How come they can go back in just a few days? Not to mention the team members. Even the captain was a little confused at this time whether Adam was telling the truth or just saying he wanted to get rid of them with the opponent's strength. They can't resist at all, so they shouldn't use such a despicable method, right? Adam looked at the two people who had no change on the surface but had a lot of inner drama, and felt a sense of boredom. Do you, the Ministry of Magic in Hong Kong, recruit people from the screenwriting major? How on earth did you come up with such a big drama in such a short period of time? In addition, if you want to die, please do it as far away as possible. Even if his secret base is not used much, he doesn't want to bury two corpses here. Are you polite? Feeling speechless, almost overflowing his chest, Adam said, "Have you decided where to go?" The two looked at each other, and finally the captain slowly said, "If this is some kind of temptation, it's not necessary. We really won't choose to escape." Adam's face turned dark. Are these two people still planning to use this secret base as a cemetery? This is not a test. Please tell me quickly, or I will throw you back into the ruins. Then, we choose to go back to the Ministry of Magic on Hong Kong Island. The team member spoke quickly. He never wanted to go back to that ghost place again. No, wait, if to confirm that Adam's words were not fake, the captain's eyes flashed and he said something that surprised the team members around him. If possible, can you send us to the office branch in mainland China? Office, although I had heard before that the administrative organization in the other world on the mainland was called the office, but what was a bit embarrassing was that Adam only knew about the office by its name. Fortunately, the captain seemed to have expected that the outside world would not understand the situation in the office, so he took the initiative to explain the situation of the office. It is an institution located in China mainland that functions as a replacement for the Ministry of Magic. In addition to the headquarters in the capital, there are also offices in various places of divisions. The place where the captain asked Adam to send them was the South China branch of the office in Guang province. When making this request, the captain couldn't help but think about the reasons for his decision. In fact, it's nothing, just a hint of doubt. After the first batch of personnel were lost, the ministries of magic of various countries almost all sent out a second wave of personnel with more adequate preparations after a long wait. Some countries even sent out more waves of personnel with different preparations. However, there was no news from the Hong Kong Island Ministry of Magic except for the first wave led by the minister himself. According to the people who came later, the base of the Hong Kong Island Ministry of Magic is still there, but no additional personnel have been sent. This made the captain suspicious. What exactly are the people in the Ministry of Magic planning? What is the current situation? Not only did the Ministry of Magic not send any reinforcements for such a long time, but even the office that they had high hopes for did not send anyone. The captain even couldn't help but wonder whether the Hong Kong Island Ministry of Magic took the initiative to block the news of the ruins of the Sky Gardens from the office. After all, there are few contacts between countries in the world, and the news of the ruins of the Sky Gardens is not known to the outside world. It is not impossible that the office has been kept in the dark. The captain didn't say it before because they couldn't get out of the ruins. Even if he did, it would only cause more trouble for the team members. Now that they are out, he has to consider whether his guess is true. Does the current Hong Kong Island Ministry of Magic really want to see them go back? After some thought, the captain still chose the more reliable office. After watching the captain's thinking and guessing, Adam was silent. This really can't be blamed on his strong imagination. There are indeed big dramas going on around him all the time. Under the influence of his ears and eyes, the screenwriter's skills have increased. However, this kind of plot where the hero has nowhere to go. It's good. Love to watch more. Adam, who likes to watch the excitement, smiled slightly. Although I don't know where the office branch you mentioned is, I am willing to help you reach your destination safely. Chapter 289 Penglai Flying Sword. Silin, Your Excellency. Jingwang inside the door, whose paint has peeled off, a bald old man wearing a boxer neck vest sat in a rocking chair, fanning his cattail leaf fan and humming to his knees, his eyebrows twitching and his face full of contentment. There was only one word Zhang left in the first sentence, and then I heard a young man running in noisily at the door. Old Zhang Tao. Stop singing about dead people in new graves. Something big has happened. The contented expression on the old man's face froze, and a vein popped out of his forehead. Don't be angry. Don't be angry. If I am angry to death, who will be happy? Calmly, after taking a few deep breaths, the old man raised one eye and looked at the young man running in. Young people are just too impetuous. Sit down and say slowly, what happened? Oh, I don't have time to sit down. Go and take a look. Every time something big happens, you need to meditate. How many times have I told you? Someone broke into the branch. He's a foreigner. He's taking 2 of our compatriots with him. What? You didn't tell me earlier. There was only a creak sound, and the only thing left on the spot was the rocking chair, which was shaking a little more than before. The old man had disappeared. If you hadn't interrupted me, I would have said it. Shrugging his shoulders at the empty rocking chair, the boy shook his head and turned around and ran back. Well, the practice here on the mainland is indeed very different from Western magic. Even the formations used are more formations. In the lobby of the South China branch of the office, Adam curiously stretched out his finger to poke at the complex lines in front of him. Sir, please don't do anything that could easily lead to misunderstanding. When the little girl at the front desk saw this scene, her heart almost jumped out of her chest. Just now, the other party suddenly appeared in the hall with 2 Chinese people, triggering the protective formation, which shocked her. Even if the other party told himself the origin, she still couldn't rest assured. After all, who knows whether what the other person says is true or false? Relax, girl, am I not coming out of this thing? Adam waved his hand in reassurance. The little girl at the front desk looked at the protective formation that should have been able to completely suppress the person, but now with Adam's waving movements, countless halos appeared, a protective formation that was about to collapse. and she felt like crying without tears. Do you know what this thing is? Before anyone in charge could arrive, Adam looked at the two people he had brought behind him. The team members were still in shock that they were actually brought from a foreign country to China. The captain looked at Adam with a complicated expression. Judging from the formation pattern and position, it should be the heaven and earth formation in the office, but judging from the effect, I'm a little unsure. Heaven and earth formation? This is a strange name, but why don't I think this formation uses the power of heaven and earth? Adam raised an eyebrow. It's not that heaven and earth, but the heaven and earth in the hexagrams, that is, the Jin and Kun hexagrams. As the saying goes, the heaven and the earth are not in harmony, the heaven and the earth are not in harmony, the yin and yang are not connected, and all things are blocked. When it came to their own majors, the team members subconsciously began to explain. Halfway through, they suddenly realized that the other party was a foreigner. Oh, sorry, I see. In the surprised eyes of the team members, Adam turned his head thoughtfully and re-examined the formation, then stretched out his finger and clicked a few times. The golden lines surrounding the three people shrank little by little, and the complex lines finally left only the symbols of Jin Gua and Kun Gua, composed of 3 long horizontal lines and 6 short horizontal lines. The team members' half-opened mouths suddenly twitched. Team, Captain, did I have an hallucination again? The captain pinched his eyebrows and shook his head with a headache. He doesn't know either, so don't ask him again. Destroy it. Hurry, I'm tired. You, don't move. When the little girl at the front desk saw this scene, she immediately shrank into the front desk, panicked and grabbed the comb she was still using before and held it in her hand. Adam looked at her in surprise and suddenly raised his hand. Buzz. Adam held a slender piece of iron in his hand. The front end was pinched by his fingers, but the tail was still vibrating at a high frequency, making a sound like a mosquito. This is a flying sword? A flying knife? But why isn't it bladed? Adam couldn't help but pick his ears with his little finger, and this voice is really not friendly. It makes people's ears itch. It's Penglay flying sword. When the little girl at the front desk saw that her last move was also taken, she couldn't help but pursed her lips and stepped back, with a hint of crying in her voice. I don't want to sound like a mosquito. The original flying sword is not allowed to be carried because of the knife control. Several question marks appeared on Adam's head. He opened his mouth, and finally asked, Penglay flying sword? Yeah, he's very famous in China. The little girl nodded with tears in her eyes. But Penglay is not in Shandong. It should belong to East China, right? Isn't this the South China branch? I'm studying in college here, and Social Security is here first. How do you know so much about China? Because my mother is Chinese. It turns out he is one of our own. You should have told me earlier. The little girl breathed a sigh of relief and almost collapsed on the ground. It's really interesting to keep vigilant all the time, and then start to act stupid after discovering that the backhand is useless and the strength gap between the two sides is too big. Adam looked at the little girl who asked him to sit down and tell her why she was here, smiled slightly, and walked forward slowly. 2015. Drink. The old man who rushed to the branch after hearing the news could not suppress the anger and anxiety on his face. After stepping through the door, he suddenly heard the sound coming from inside and couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. What's going on? It's not that someone invaded, but where are the people? Also, why did you start punching and drinking in broad daylight? The most hateful thing is that he is not included. Putting the Vajra into his arms, the old man slowed down, frowned and walked in following the sound. Finally, he found Chen Guo, who should be on duty in the living room, but his current condition seemed not right. After taking a sip of black tea and getting bored, I poured a new cup. The girl on duty named Hongo was obviously a little lost. Come again. I don't accept it. Oh, girl, why don't we forget it? Adam did it speak, and the team members on the side couldn't stand it anymore, and couldn't help but try to dissuade him. You have almost drank 2 kilograms of tea. If you lose any more, you will get water poisoning. Why don't you go to the toilet first? Don't worry about me. I will win at least once today. Hongo looked at Adam, who looked helpless, and gritted his teeth and said, I don't believe it. If you can memorize it to this point today, you really can't win at all. Adam looked at Honguo's thoughts and sighed. I'm sorry, girl. He took a sip of this tea before and his mouth is still numb even after he opened it halfway. He really doesn't want to take a second sip. Chapter 290. Experts are not very convenient now. Ahem. At this moment, there was a coughing sound from the door of the waiting room. Adam turned around and saw an old man standing at the door. When he saw him, he smiled and nodded, saying hello to the foreigner who broke into the branch in the news about Adam, but now seems to be getting along well with Hongo. Lao Litao walked to Hongo and glanced at her. What are you so excited about? While speaking, Lao Li glanced across and asked Hongo what was going on. Oh, Teacher Li, you are here. Hongo quickly stood up and tidied her clothes, and at the same time adjusted her mentality, watching Lao Litao tell what happened just now. Of course, he deleted the part where he and Adam were fist fighting. Oh? Is there such a thing? After hearing the cause and effect, old Li Tao did not expect that the situation was more complicated than he imagined. He couldn't help but frown and looked at the two people behind Adam. Are you from the Ministry of Magic in Hong Kong? Yes. The two quickly stood up straight and responded. How do I prove my identity? Our identification number is… Stop. Your ID number on Hong Kong Island is in a separate file. We can't find it here. Lao Li shook his head and interrupted them. Forward. The team members couldn't help but look at the captain. What to do? The Hong Kong Ministry of Magic is only under the management of the office in name. In fact, everyone knows what is going on. Even the identity numbers are not shared with each other. Even if they give other information, can the office verify it? The captain frowned and wanted to say that he knew the magic of Hong Kong Island, but this did not seem to have anything to do with the fact that they were from the Ministry of Magic. Seeing this, old Li Tao sighed. Forget it. This is a serious matter, so I'll trust you and send this news to the higher-ups first. Hearing this, the two people from the Hong Kong Ministry of Magic breathed a sigh of relief, grateful. During this period, you can stay here for now. There are still a few guest rooms in the branch. Lao Li nodded towards them, and Hongo immediately volunteered to take them there. The three of them left the living room, and Lao Litao sat down opposite Adam, where Hongo had been sitting before. As for Mr. Adam, he is so kind-hearted. He traveled thousands of miles to send our compatriots back. Regardless of whether what they said is true or not, I would like to express my gratitude to you on behalf of the Traditional Culture and Religious Liaison Office. First, he said some polite words, and then Lao Litao said, I wonder what Mr. Adam's next plans are? I'm afraid I need to ask you to stay for a while before the matter is over. But please don't worry, we will follow the etiquette for receiving foreign guests in terms of food and accommodation. Please understand, somewhat beyond Adam's expectation, old Li Tao looks similar to Hui, an evil god, but he spoke fluent English. It even has an authentic London accent. I understand, no problem, I can cooperate. Adam smiled and nodded. He had no intention of sending someone away and leaving. Seeing Adam's reaction, Lao Litao was a little confused. Even if the other party was indeed friendly and talkative to them because his mother was Chinese, it was too easy to talk to them. In any case, they were now going to put each other under house arrest and disguise. But I have a few small conditions, which I hope you can understand. Old Li Tao suddenly smiled and nodded. Your Excellency, please tell me. As long as we can do it, we will try our best to cooperate. First of all, I heard that the food nearby is very special. I hope you can send a tour guide to take me around during this period. Hearing Adam's conditions, Lao Li didn't react for the first time. Old Li Tao couldn't help but scratch the shiny top of his head and said with some self-doubt, Mr. Adam, what did you just say? I heard from Miss Hongo that the claypot rice, roast pork and porridge here are very delicious. I want to try them. Seeing the smile on Adam's face, Lao Litao couldn't help but be silent for a second. No problem, we will arrange for someone to introduce you to the customs here, so that you can have a good time. Listening to the last string of fluent words, Adam couldn't help but wonder if the office was also part of the work of the Cultural Tourism Bureau, but that has nothing to do with him. Adam then said, in addition, I wonder if you can help contact some professionals in the identification and protection of cultural relics. When it comes to dealing with foreigners, this is not the first time for old Li Tao to get on the sedan chair. Friendly, unfriendly, sinister, those who hide their knives in their smiles. What kind of foreigners has he not seen? But the Adam he saw today made Lao Litao feel that the experience he had accumulated in the past was of no use today. Well, I'm a wizard living in England, UK, old. Litao couldn't help but frown because of their geographical location. Their branch has relatively frequent dealings with foreign wizards, so they know more or less what is happening in the UK. In addition, the news that Britain suffered frequent terrorist attacks some time ago was quite sensational even in the Muggle world. While feeling sorry for what happened to our international friends, PFFT, the Chinese people who heard the news were all saddened by the terrorist attacks on the British Museum and other museums, art galleries, and even private collectors. Originally, those treasures, even if they never came back, were still there with the thought of letting them go home one day, but now it's better. It's all gone. The bad news came one after another and finally stopped for a while. After that, the news that the Boston Museum of Fine Arts and the Metropolitan Museum of Art in the United States had also been destroyed and stolen once again came to the attention of many old professors in history, archaeology, and cultural relics. One black I still remember those days when suxiojics and pills were almost bought and the price went up. After recovering from regret, old Li Tao sighed, I really don't know whether it's a coincidence or an unlucky thing that Your Excellency has come here. During this period, all the professionals that the cabinet in China is looking for have gathered together, but I'm afraid they are not on very good condition now and it is not convenient. Oh? What do you say? Adam raised his eyebrows in surprise, and couldn't help but look at what the other party's shallow mind recalled as he obviously became more excited. Otis. The corners of Adam's eyes twitched imperceptibly. Alice, Your Excellency may not know that many cultural relics in China have been plundered by various countries in the past years, including the United Kingdom. Feeling that the other party was friendly to China in his heart, Lao Litao couldn't help but give Adam some eye drops as he spoke. However, just before, the place where these cultural relics were stored in the UK was reduced to rubble in the attack, and the experts were greatly stimulated by this. Now they are basically in the special care ward in the capital. I see. Adam nodded as if he was enlightened, and then couldn't help but touch the tip of his nose with his hand. Then, if those cultural relics were not reduced to ruins along with the place where they were stored, what? He saw in Lao Litao's memory flashed in his mind, the image of an old professor whipping over with a Q sound, and Adam coughed awkwardly. Hey, can these experts be better? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291, Sitting Up in Shock from the Dying Illness. These are, looking at the old men and women opposite Yuan Guangshu whose hands had begun to shake, Adam couldn't help but glance at the fully armed nurses and doctors opposite. Well, they have worked really hard. Just when Adam thought the other side was about to start putting on the life support device, he saw an old man wearing a respirator take off the respirator, lift a quilt, get out of bed and start putting on his coat, and performed a dying scene for everyone. Sitting up in shock. Adam! Exclamation mark. Doctors U0026 nurses! Exclamation mark. Although they can understand the excitement of the other party, no one will feel happy when they see this scene. Instead, these four words shine brightly in their minds. Come back to the light, teacher. Ma. Teacher Ma. It's not like that, teacher Ma. Teacher Ma. Let's sit down first. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry. Before the doctors and nurses could persuade the old man to go back, the old man was like a trigger, and all the old men and women were about to get out of bed excitedly. Let's go. Let's go now. I really see the pair of you on blue and white dragon patterned elephant ears. Don't be anxious. Today is the most urgent day since Dingling was excavated. Look at those treasures that were improperly preserved. There are visible signs of bumps to the naked eye. Ouch! Those glazed bricks have been cut into pieces. The murals are also broken, and they are all mushy. It's hard to imagine that these experts and professors who usually wear reading glasses can capture so much information just by scanning the circular light technique. Just now the doctors and nurses blocking the door of the ward were all on the verge of tears and did not dare to pull. They could only claw at the door frame hard and use their bodies to form a roadblock as fragile as their future. Ahem, teachers, calm down first and listen to me. The Office staff who controlled the round light technique on the opposite side couldn't help but step forward to control the situation, and the round light technique also dispersed at this time. Adam looked at the pink and white wall originally projected by the circular light technique, remained silent for a moment, then turned to look at old Lee. This dose of medicine seems a bit too strong. Although the tiger and wolf medicine is effective, it is also harmful to the body. Can the experts and professors on the opposite side hold on? It's not a big problem. In the past, the main reason why experts couldn't cure the disease for a long time was heart disease. Now that the heart disease is cured, the people at the headquarters can treat the experts with more medicines. Lao Litao waved his hand nonchalantly, then looked at the dazzling array of antiques in front of him and sighed. He had only seen this kind of big scene in the Palace Museum, and he saw it through the glass. However, according to Adam, what he saw here was just the tip of the iceberg. The sigh was fleeting, and Lao Litao felt a burst of excitement. Mr. Adam, are you sure these cultural relics will be returned to us after the restoration is completed? Lao Litao has asked this question before, but I still want to confirm it again, mainly because, Mr. Adam, are you able to make this decision for your country's Prime Minister? Lao Litao looked at Adam with sincerity in his eyes. Although with the current state of China, even if all these things are smuggled in, they can still spray back the British Prime Minister who comes to ask for it. After all, before the atomic bomb, they dared to travel thousands of miles to beat up the Yankees. After the atomic bomb, their backs became even stronger. If he had the courage, they would come and rob him again, but in that case, Adam, who has to return to the country, may have to face pressure from the British Prime Minister. So the main purpose of Lao Li's question is, if not, we will help you arrange the procedures for changing your nationality. I have to say that Adam was stunned by these words for a moment before he reacted. I'm absolutely sure of that. After the Ministry of Magic regains order, it is natural to re-establish contact with the Prime Minister, but Eugene is very different in this regard compared to the previous Minister of Magic before this. The Ministry of Magic paid no attention to the Muggle world. Even magical creatures had a liaison office. Muggles did not even have a liaison office for the Prime Minister. There was only an Auror who usually accompanied and protected the Prime Minister as a part-time liaison officer. Remember, the Prime Minister basically only knows about the existence of the wizarding world, but knows nothing about everything in the wizarding world. This is basically the normal state of the relationship between the world and the outside world in all countries. The only one with a deeper connection between the outside world and the outside world is the newly established China and the office. But now, there's Britain and the British Ministry of Magic. After witnessing legilimency, forgetfulness, out-of-body magic and other magics with his own eyes, especially when the Auror still had a gun in his hand, Tony Blair, the newly appointed Muggle Prime Minister, wiped his cold sweat while thinking loudly in his heart. Cursing the former Prime Minister, no wonder he ran away so quickly without saying a word. While agreeing to many demands made by the Ministry of Magic, including the right to interfere with government orders. Originally, wizards, as part of the British citizenry, certainly had the right to participate in the governance of the country. Everyone put down their wands and guns, and it was easy to say anything. Old Li Tao, who didn't know the inside story, couldn't help but sigh that this foreign friend probably played an unimaginable role in it. After all, he really couldn't imagine how the British Prime Minister would agree to return these stolen cultural relics. However, I need to remind you that all these cultural relics must be restored, at least to ensure the integrity of the cultural relics, before they can be returned to your country. This is not intentionally a problem for Adam. In fact, this batch of cultural relics is indeed a little bit large, with millions of pieces. If they are all given to China in one go, I am afraid that not 99% of the cultural relics will be lost after this limelight passes. It was thrown into the library and left to be damaged. Of course, it is not ruled out that Adam would like to copy the repaired version of the cultural relics for his own collection. As a layman, he still cares about the appearance of the collection. As for the original condition of these cultural relics, the British can't even make them look old, so how do you expect them to restore them? But it turns out that Adam still underestimated the British. It's fake. This one is also fake. This one is fake at first glance. In a constant temperature and humidity warehouse built with great effort, a group of experts and professors took out their own food and picked out antiques that were judged to be fake from the shelves. Adam looked at the bottles and jars on the ground in shock. Are these all fake? So much? He got it directly from the British Museum. Back then, the British also snatched it directly from the palace. How could this be fake? Mr. Adam, you need not be surprised at all by this situation. An old professor seemed a little tired and walked aside. He happened to see Adam's surprised expression and explained considerately, not all museums may be authentic. Generally speaking, there are several situations, such as the genuine items are too damaged, the authentic items are currently on tour, the authentic items have been borrowed by some shameless museums, etc. As he spoke, the old professor picked up the cup and took a sip of tea. He turned his head subconsciously, glanced at the dust-free floor and the antique artifacts in front of him, silently spit the tea leaves back into the cup, and continued, however, considering that these items come from the British Museum, it is more likely that the authentic items have been stolen or sold secretly. Chapter 292. Who sent the letter from the clouds? When the geese return, the moon is full in the west. After using the Xi'an Pi to trace back several fakes, Adam couldn't help but curse in his heart. The old professor's guess just now was really accurate. The museum staff helped to sell the collection, but no one else actually dared to steal his things. When he returns to the UK, he will definitely not be as good as those people. Adam took a vicious bite of the barbecued pork bun. This barbecued pork is quite sweet. I'll make a few more copies and take them back for Adam. The 2 side missions to China have now been delivered. For the side mission of the Hanging Garden ruins, the 2 people have been picked up. The office will handle the rest according to the situation, and Adam no longer cares. There is still a follow-up to the side mission of restoring the donated cultural relics, but I don't know when it will take place, and Adam can't interfere for a while. Although the damaged cultural relics were not destroyed by black magic, there was a force more powerful than black magic that destroyed them. Time, not to mention that the missing parts had long gone for various reasons. The magic of restoration cannot be used to repair those cultural relics. If Adam wants to get the cultural relics in good condition, in addition to finding Chinese professionals to repair them, he probably can only copy the cultural relics when they were created. Just one, but in that case, even the cultural relics of the Shang and Zhou dynasties would look like those of last week. After thinking about it for a while, Adam decided to start his main mission, travel. Lao Li touched his bald head. As one of the foundations of the South China branch, he has now become a staff member dedicated to dealing with Adam. However, Adam's current status in China is definitely worthy of this treatment. Old Li Tao was a little surprised by Adam's request, but not that surprised after all. He had seen Adam's travel experience during this period. Yes, China is a country with a vast territory and abundant resources. I am very interested in the customs of various places in China, and I want to take this opportunity to take a closer look. In this regard, Lao Litao just thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. Whether judging from the legitimacy of this request or the current relationship between the 2 parties, he had no reason to refuse Adam. As for whether Adam would take this opportunity to have other ideas, emotionally, he was willing to believe in such a thing. Otherwise, Adam wouldn't have to bring so many cultural relics. He could just use the diplomatic relations of the Ministry of Magic and travel everywhere. How could he be the one who made the decision to return the cultural relics? Some is for the issue of intellectually guarding against others. When such an important foreign guest travels in the country, they are not allowed to send someone to guard them. The specific guard or guard to be used at that time will be judged based on the on-site situation. With his mind racing, old Li Tao asked Adam about his travel plans. Knowing the destination in advance allows them to make preparations, such as conducting an emergency anti-pornography and anti-crime campaign, cleaning up the city, etc. Adam asked for a map of China, flipped through it, and then reported a travel route. It starts from the coast of Guangzhou to the north, reaches Jiangsu and Zhejiang, and then turns westward, following the Silk Road of ancient China. After hearing this, Lao Litao looked at Adam in surprise. He had decided on a travel route so quickly, and there were places to eat and play along the way. It seemed that the other party had indeed been prepared to travel for a long time. But, Mr. Adam, I have to remind you that this travel plan will take a long time. It doesn't matter, I usually have more free time. I plan to stay in China for a while. If possible, I would like to come here more often. After all, even if this trip ends, there are still too many beautiful scenery and too many delicious foods in China that I have not appreciated. I didn't taste it. Adam's eyes fell on a certain place on the map, then he looked back and smiled slightly. It's just that during this period, I may have to go back to England several times for some matters. I wonder if you can help me open a back door in the Heaven and Earth formation. I don't know how the office does it. The Heaven and Earth formation covers the entire China, blocking all special transmissions from within the country to the outside world. Those from outside the country will directly block and suppress the other party. Adam could break it open, but the noise might be a bit loud, and if discovered, it would easily affect the current friendly relationship. This old Li Tao was a little embarrassed. Finally, after some careful consideration, he gritted his teeth and said, "Well, you can teleport in the office, and we will open an opening for you at a specific location. No problem. Thank you for your generosity." Adam smiled and nodded to Lao Li, opening the world formation for him. Even if it was just a corner, it was already a considerable degree of trust. You must know that Yuzhao's space teleportation can cause a considerable degree of damage if he is intentional. If it really causes casualties, Lao Litao, who made this decision, must definitely bear the blame. After Adam's travel plan was set, he set off directly on the road the next day. What made many people relieved was that Adam did not plan to directly take a plane or train to cross regions, but instead invited office personnel to accompany him for protection. Take yourself by car according to the normal speed. It will take a while for Adam to leave Guangzhou completely. After all, there are many delicious foods here. Mr. Adam, can you speak Chinese? Yun Jinshu, who was driving, almost lost control of the steering wheel and drove the car into a ditch. Yun Yan, the co-pilot, gave him a slap in the face. There were many people assigned to Adam in the office, but the close security was this pair of twin brothers, who were said to be from Shushan. How should I put it? Pretty good. Well, after all, my mother is Chinese, so I know a little bit. As he spoke, Adam, who was sitting in the back seat, silently put his hand on the car door, ready to jump out of the car at any time if there was any danger. Jeff Lao. My God, you don't just know a little bit, you don't have any foreign accent at all. Even my father's accent is heavier than yours. Yun Jinshu couldn't help shaking his head at him. While being surprised at Adam's standard Chinese, Yun Jinshu and Yun Yan, who couldn't help but start talking to Adam. After all, they originally thought that Adam didn't know English, and their English level was still at the level where they would be stunned for a while before speaking after listening, not at the level of daily communication, and they couldn't leave Adam to chat by themselves, which made them feel very depressed along the way. Yun Jinshu and Yun Yan, who talked about a lot of fun places and delicious snacks nearby. His mouth was dry after talking about this. Yun Jinshu took a sip of water while waiting for the traffic light. He couldn't help but feel a little regretful that he couldn't ask the other party to try the local specialty of herbal tea. Adam was a foreign guest after all, not his friend. It would be a prank to give this to a friend unexpectedly, but it would be a diplomatic accident to give it to a foreign guest unexpectedly. Adam's eyelids twitched slightly and he withdrew his gaze from Yun Jinshu, looked out the window, and couldn't help sighing. If everything goes well, in half a year, he will probably be able to reach that place. What will he see there? Chapter 293 Returned Egyptian Antiquities. Where is the nearest office here? Traveling all the way to Fuzhou, after eating the authentic Judson Garden Buddha jumping over the wall, Adam looked at Yun Jinshu and asked, "Are you going back?" As Yun Jinshu spoke, he pushed a bowl of noodles, which was still a full bowl after half an hour of eating, in front of Yun Yan, who without leaving any trace. "Well, I have some things to deal with. It won't take long." Adam nodded. Eugene had already contacted him with a double-sided mirror. Bernard's trial was over, and the next target was Gringotts. We are still far away from that place, and Adam's heart is still a little uncertain. He feels inexplicably more and more timid about being close to home. He wants to do something else in the middle to reset his mood. "Okay, let's set off now, don't waste food." Yun Yan pulled back Yun Jinshu, who stood up and was about to run away, then turned to look at the waiter. "Please pack this bowl of noodles for him, Yun Jinshu!" Regardless of the two living treasures, Adam came to the office's station next to the 3 lanes and 7 alleys. The people in the office had already been prepared here. "I don't know how long this trip will take. I will use this double-sided mirror to contact you before I come back." Adam handed a double-sided mirror to Yun Yan and then disappeared, directly reappearing. Adam had arrived at the conference room of the British Ministry of Magic. A meeting had just been held here, and only Eugene and Bernard were left here. "What should I say? When will we start taking action?" Pulling out a chair and sitting down, Adam's voice startled both Eugene and Bernard, who were staring at the documents. "I'll go. Why didn't you say hello when you came?" Bernard patted his chest, then waved the document on his hand. "Don't just keep talking. The judgment and calculation of property losses have just been completed. Even if we want to take action, we have to wait until we notify Gringotts to collect the assets involved, and then Gringotts refuses. It's easy for us to take action, it's a matter of time. Adam shrugged, and Eugene nodded in agreement. Obviously, doing this will inevitably lead to resistance from Gringotts. After all, Gringotts' main focus is asset security. The ownerless property after the magic contract expires is a considerable source of funds for Gringotts. Bernard snapped his fingers. This is another Gringotts crime, embezzling the client's property without permission. Do you need to find out more about the charges against those goblins? With their greed, are you afraid that they will be innocent if you press Anubis's scale? Adam didn't understand that Bernard needed to worry about Gringotts' goblins' crimes. Even so, no crime can be omitted, Bernard insisted. Okay. Speaking of Anubis's scales, what does Uther say? Adam looked at Eugene. The collections in those museums were not only stolen from the Chinese family, but also a considerable part of them were stolen from Egypt. For these cultural relics, their idea was to see if Uther wanted them, and if so, Adam would send them to him. Although the mummy was almost eaten, there was still a lot of gold coffin, gold mask and so on. Uther said that if he insists on taking those things to Egypt, it's not impossible, Eugene said with a subtle expression after recalling for a moment. Huh? What does this mean? Do you want it or not? Adam's eyes widened. Why don't you go and ask yourself? There was nothing Eugene could do. Uther seemed not to want to say too much to him in this regard. It might be related to the internal secrets of the Egyptian Ministry of Magic. Okay, I'll go to Egypt to ask him. Remember to call me before the fight starts. After Adam finished speaking, he disappeared. Uther, do you want your ancestor's coffin? Adam appeared directly at the door of Uther's room, raised his hand and knocked on the door while speaking. Adam. After a while, Uther's vague voice came from the room, and then there was a sound of slippers slapping the ground. Uther rubbed his eyes and opened the door. Wow. Adam looked at Uther with a sleepy face and the dark brightness in the room and shook his head. It's already past 3 in the afternoon. Are you still sleeping? Although I don't know which time zone you just came from, I still want to correct you. Uther drew his wand in the air, and the golden thread outlined the current time, Egyptian time. It's just past 6 in the morning. Well, Cairo is the East 2nd District. My bad. Adam coughed awkwardly. Then do you want to sleep a little longer now? Forget it. I'm already awake. Although he said this, Uther still yawned and turned around and entered the room. He turned on the light, put on a coat and sat back on the bed. What do you want from me? Well, it's actually nothing. It's mainly about your cultural relics. Adam sat on the other half of the bed without any courtesy and looked at Uther doubtfully. Why does it sound like you don't really want to get those cultural relics back? From your reply to Eugene, well, on the one hand, the curses on those things are very troublesome. After we get them back, we have to go through a lot of complicated procedures, but if we put them in the UK, there will be no problem. Uther grabbed his hair and answered casually, it's too far from the Nile River, and it has lost the magic rooted in this land. Those curses are just things that may make people sick in Britain. Is this curse also regional? Of course, the pharaoh at that time didn't think that someone would go thousands of miles to dig up his tomb just to take his coffins back. Right, Uther said. As a matter of course, Adam thought about it and it was right. From the perspective of the pharaoh, what he valued most was of course the land he ruled and his rights. How could someone who could dig up his tomb just for that little bit of gold? So, how were those pharaohs' tombs dug up? At the beginning, those people found that it was easy to get into trouble if people dug directly, and if it didn't work to fill it with lives, they would use heavy machines to dig and bombard it. Uther recalled, according to records, the people in the Ministry of Magic were very angry at the time. They wanted to say who was so ignorant of the rules and wanted to stop it. Unexpectedly, they found that it was a group of muggles, and they wanted to take those things away, without Uther continuing to say. Adam knew what happened later from his memory and his own guesses. British muggle, there is a treasure underground. I'll dig and dig. Egyptian wizard, oh my god, these idiots. Foreign friends are willing to take away these curses at the cost of their own safety. Please help. So with the help of the Egyptian Ministry of Magic, the British expedition team took batches of Egyptian cultural relics out of Egypt and sent them to the UK. We have already taken out the truly valuable ones, and the remaining ones are all negative assets. The cost of washing away the curse is higher than the value of the item itself. We are so happy that someone has taken over. Uther spread his hands. So when you asked me what I thought of the cultural relics in the museum, I said it was not a bad thing for us. I see. Adam nodded. Then leave those cultural relics in the UK. It just so happens that rebuilding the museum should be able to raise the exchange rate of the pound, and he will make a small profit. Well, is there anything else? Uther's eyelids are already unable to hold up. Well, actually, I brought you some Buddha jumps over the wall, but you, Adam, looked at Uther, who looked very sleepy, and said hesitantly, "Give me 2 minutes to wash up." Uther apparated and disappeared on the bed. Adam thought that Uther could eat after he woke up. Chapter 294, The Sword Pointed at Gringotts. After a trip to Egypt and a quick meal with Uther, Adam returned to England. Eugene and the others hadn't found him yet, so he went to Misley and Mr. Red first. After Voldemort was completely eliminated, all the family members placed in the safe house by Adam came out. Originally, according to Adam's intention, Misley and Mr. Reed simply gave up their wasted careers during this period. After all, they are not like Adam, who is just a shopkeeper. Even the supply is semi-automated by magic. There are still many things to consider when doing business. However, neither Misley nor Mr. Reed agreed with Adam's idea. Even if it was not for money, they still wanted to pursue the realization of self-worth, so Adam left it to them. By the time Eugene and the others notified Adam to gather, it was already Adam's third day back in England. "Adam, you're finally here, so is it really no surprise that you want to take action?" After Adam arrived, he looked at the fully armed Aurors and smiled slightly. There wouldn't be any surprises. If the goblin wasn't greedy, he wouldn't be a goblin. Eugene shook his head, but they probably didn't expect that we would attack them so decisively. Right, the spellcasting ability of goblins is not weak. In the so-called Goblin Rebellion in the past, they often fought with wizards and suffered heavy casualties. The history of magic is written as if the wizards easily suppressed the goblins, but it was just to put a golden face on themselves. That's all. Is it really possible to suppress goblins so easily? With a general contempt of wizards for all kinds of magical animals, how can we still sit back and watch goblins manage the financial industry? That's why the goblins so confidently rejected the Ministry of Magic's request. They believed that it was impossible for the Ministry of Magic to go to war with them, especially since the British wizarding community was still in a state of great depletion after the war. It's a pity that they don't know that times have changed. Adam sighed, and the Staff of Darkness appeared in his hand. "Let's go." After that, Adam took the lead and walked in the direction of Gringotts. Mr. Minister, who was Mr. Adam just now, the head of our command, couldn't help but ask Eugene, "Who is this?" What a loud tone. If it weren't for the fact that he and Mr. Minister communicated so equally and casually, and Mr. Minister didn't look angry at all, he would have just stood up and shouted at him. "He is the mysterious support I mentioned, my former classmate and roommate. Do you remember the weapons we were funded before?" Eugene reminded in a low voice. The head of the Auror Command took a breath of air. It turned out to be this person. He still remembered the shock when he first saw the power of those black tubes and green boxes. The mysterious support is from the opponent. Is this going to blow up Gringotts directly? Also, Mr. Minister, who were the gods in the dormitory you once lived in? In addition to you, there is Mr. Bernard, who revised the new law, the future Minister of Magic of Egypt, and this Mr. Adam. Will the remaining one give them any surprises in the future? Unaware of his subordinates' inner slander, Eugene continued to whisper, "The rest of the battle with the goblins can be left to Adam. You are responsible for evacuating the crowd in Diagon Alley and besieging the area around Gringotts." The head of the Auror Command was startled again, leaving the entire battle to the other party. So what did they do with so many Aurors in the past? Shouting, "Come on, that?" Mr. Adam and Minister Eugene are classmates. Even if they are not weak, how strong can they be? He was not Merlin to solve the entire Gringotts by himself. Merlin, the director of the Auror Command, watched helplessly as Mr. Adam took out a black dumpling from his pocket. Then the black dumpling rose into the air and quickly turned into a huge black dragon, kicking the dragon on top of Gringotts. The stone statue was kicked to the ground. Roar. With a low roar, Ziohe flapped his wings lightly, and with a little force on his hand, the entire roof of Gringotts was easily lifted open like the skull of a prey that Ziohe had captured in the past, revealing the things that were busy inside. Goblins, what's going on? Is it dark? Where did such a strong wind come from? Why Did the sun suddenly become bigger? Wait a minute, where did the black dragon come from? What black dragon? It has to be said that the nature of goblins who are greedy and fond of treasures is really deep in their bones. Those goblins who are carefully measuring the weight of gold with brass scales and appraising the value of gems with magnifying glasses do not notice anything wrong, even if the ceiling is lifted for a while. It was the exclamations of the goblins who had nothing to do when they realized something was wrong that woke them up from their intoxication with the treasure call. Under the horrified gazes of all the goblins, Ziohei slowly lowered his head. The air exhaled from his mouth did not have any fishy smell due to Adam's instruction to brush his teeth before and after meals, but was purely due to the high temperature generated by the atomic furnace in his body. The goblin's sparse hair curled up under the heat. Retreat, retreat. Get out of here quickly. Greedy dragon. This is not the place you should be. A goblin in a straight suit hurriedly ran into the hall from the passage, holding a mithril sword and a mithril shield in his hand. Although his voice and hands were shaking a little, the goblin still raised his sword and pointed at Ziohei. The treasure here is ours. Ziohei tilted his head, looking at the silver toothpick in front of him with a hint of curiosity in his eyes. Oh? I'm afraid those who deposit their property in Gringotts will not agree with your point of view. The door of Gringotts was open with a bang, and Adam, wearing a sun and moon magic robe, a wide-brimmed magic hat, and holding a dark stick, slowly stepped into Gringotts. Not far behind him, the Ministry of Magic was organizing people to evacuate the people in Diagon Alley. The wizard who originally thought that the Ministry of Magic was making a fuss knelt down directly after seeing Ziohei not far away. Adam used magic to seal off the space here to ensure that the goblins in Gringotts could not escape. He could have blocked the aftermath of the battle here as well, and the people in Diagon Alley did not need to evacuate. But who are you? The goblin turned around and pointed his sword at Adam, and Ziohei's eyes narrowed immediately. Roar. A breath of magic and martial arts mixed with atomic breath and multiple elemental energies was exhaled, and the goblin melted in the strong light along with his sword and shield in his hand. Even though Ziohei had controlled the power, the aftermath of the breath still spread around, instantly shattering the walls of Gringotts, and even turning a section of buildings near Gringotts in Diagon Alley into ruins. Adam stood quietly at the center of the impact, reaching out to lower the brim of his hat, but couldn't help but curling up the corners of his mouth. If the Ministry of Magic had destroyed Gringotts without causing any damage to the surrounding area, how could it be shown that Gringotts faced the legitimate and reasonable demands of the Ministry of Magic, but chose to be powerless to resist, and wanted to plunge the wizarding world, which had just been at peace, into war again? Oh my, I wonder if anyone in Diagon Alley will come to their senses and be willing to sell the land after this time? Chapter 295. The Fairy and Number 039, S Counterattack. Attack. Attack. Attention. Everyone, move the treasure first. With Ziohei's dragon breath, the magnificent hall of Gringotts was almost burned to the ground. However, there are far more goblins in the huge Gringotts. After learning about the situation in the hall, the remaining goblins took the minecarts to the underground vault in a panic. There is transfer magic there that can help them transfer the treasures in the vault to Gringotts and other areas. It's a pity that Adam has been on guard against their attacks for a long time. Complex magic lines are taking shape in the void, faintly forming the shape of a lock. Not to mention space transfer. Even if a missile hits them, their ashes will not float away. Go out so soon. The goblins discovered that the teleportation magic had failed, so they ran out of the vault in panic and shouted loudly in the mine. Why did the teleportation magic in vault number 1 fail? The ones in vault number 3 are also, no. 14, did it break after too long? How is that possible? Even if they are bad, they can't all be bad at the same time. It must be counter magic. An elderly goblin with the highest position present could no longer listen. Who is the intruder? Have you found out? It's a black dragon. No. It's a wizard. Hearing this confused answer, the old goblin couldn't help but rub his white ears. What is this? Is it a black dragon or a wizard? And only one? Are you kidding me? Voldemort is dead. Did Dumbledore come over? Forget it. No matter what, it was a fact that Gringotts suffered an unprecedented invasion, and the other party seemed to come after the goblins rather than for money. Now that the retreat route is blocked, it's better to meet the enemy first. It seems that we have to use that. Everyone, get your weapons and prepare to fight with me. While the old goblin ordered everyone to get weapons, he asked his cronies to go underground and drive out the fire dragons used to guard the vault. At this moment, on the ground, roar, Zio. Hey shook his head and glanced at the Gringotts Hall, where the ground was covered with various debris and liquid metal was flowing. Then he looked at Adam and asked with his eyes what to do next. So good, you did a great job. What's next? Oh, Adam reached out and stroked Zio-Hei's chin, suddenly turned around, raised the staff of darkness and tapped it lightly in the air. Invisible huge force surged forward, lifting the construction debris and ashes on the ground, and finally tore open the iron door leading to the depths of Gringotts. After breaking through the obstacle, several Ukrainian iron bellies with chains wrapped around their bodies rushed straight out. Is there more than one dragon under Gringotts? Without Adam having to do anything, Zio-Hei blew his nose at the dragons. The scorching temperature and fierce breath instantly caused the Ukrainian iron bellies to freeze. In terms of ecological niche, Zio-Hei, who combines the bloodlines of many powerful people, is definitely at the T0 level in this world. Even if he has never met before, the ferocious aura of Zio-Hei, who usually preys on fire dragons as a reactor meal replacement, is enough. Destroys most creatures. The goblin hiding behind the Ukrainian iron belly was also startled and sat directly on the ground. However, the next moment it roared with some embarrassment. Useless trash, we have raised you for so many years so that you can protect Gringotts. Come on, he spoke. The goblin shook the jingle in his hand under the condition reflex developed since childhood and the shadow of childhood. A Ukrainian iron belly still bravely charged forward. Seeing that this guy dared to resist, Zio-Hei didn't tolerate it. He raised his paw and slapped the Ukrainian iron belly into Ukrainian iron belly zip at the same time. With his claw, the entire Gringotts underground was shaking. Oh my god. Is this an earthquake? Don't worry, every vault is protected by magic and will never come out. While he was talking, a treasury located slightly outside broke apart from the surroundings in the vibration, and the entire treasury fell off the rock wall. The entire treasury fell downwards, and happened to pass by the goblin who was comforting others on the road. Although it was not hit directly, the fierce wind pressure caused by the huge vault's fall still brought the goblin down from the edge of the cliff. The other goblins could only hear his voice getting farther and farther as he fell, and finally disappeared into the roar of the vault falling to the ground. It is true that the vault is extremely strong under the protection of magic, but the magic that protects the vault does not expand indefinitely. The fact that the vault is not broken does not mean that the connection between the vault and the vault will not be broken. A goblin found with an ugly face that there were also ominous creaking sounds coming from around the vault behind them, which was probably the sound of rocks beginning to break. Roar. The goblins who stayed underground were in a bad mood, and the Ukrainian iron belly on the ground was equally frightened. Although the fear and pain caused by the tinkling film behind him is very profound, how can the same kind of Ukrainian iron belly sauce in front of him not be extremely vivid? So the Ukrainian iron bellies went crazy in the dilemma and constant approaching fear. They used their claws, sharp teeth and breath to attack all around indiscriminately, and then became even more violent in the pain of being accidentally injured by their companions. At some point, the sound of the jingle piece disappeared amid the rampage of the dragons, and the goblin holding the jingle piece had turned into dust after being trampled countless times. Roar. Zio-Hei tilted his head. They were fighting just now. Why are they fighting on their own now? That's the power of emotions. I just gave them a little push. Adam looked beyond the Ukrainian iron belly to the Gringotts underground further back. What wave is this? Why is it like fighting a world boss? Then let you fight a wave of mobs first. As he spoke, several Ukrainian iron bellies stopped fighting and rushed into the underground passage of Gringotts with glaring scarlet eyes and sharp teeth dripping with blood. Boom. The roar of the fire dragon became somewhat distorted under the constant reflection of the tunnel, and the sound of the collision between the flesh and the passage gradually faded away. However, as an explosion sounded in the passage, the voice of the fire dragon disappeared under Adam's slightly surprised gaze. A group of fully armed goblins emerged from the underground passage. Black dragons and wizards. It turns out they are both. The eyes of the leader of the elderly goblins paused for a moment on Zio-Hei above and Adam in front. Who are you? Forget it. That doesn't matter anymore. Just suffer death. The old goblin raised his hand. It was now wearing a set of armor with a retro pattern. The metal gloves lit up with a scarlet light after facing Adam in an instant. A beam of light was launched from the palm of the glove, but when it was about to hit Adam, it was blocked by a suddenly raised rock. When the beam landed on the rock, an extremely violent explosion occurred. The explosion in the underground passage just now was obviously this thing. Wait a minute, have I seen this thing before somewhere? Adam waved his hand to control the wind to disperse the dust produced by the explosion, and saw that the old goblin's armor was a little weird. Chapter 296, Deja Vu. So, when the wizards were casting spells with small wooden sticks, the goblins were actually poking open the mecha. Adam looked at the old goblin in shock. Although the armor still looked like a handicraft, the level of technology it embodied was obviously incompatible with the wizarding world that was still in the Middle Ages. Nice one. Bring it and have a look. Just when this idea came to Adam's mind, the goblins in front of him started to act armor, bracelets, wristbands, tiaras. Each piece of equipment lit up with the same scarlet light, and then released beams of different thicknesses to attack Adam. At the same time, Ziohei above also became the target of the goblins even because of Ziohei's size and visual pressure that far exceeded Adam's. Ziohei was obviously attacked more than Adam. The beams released by those equipment will explode after hitting an object, but it is not a cursive explosion. It is more like a simple energy weapon. The explosion is a property of the energy itself. Well, when it comes to understanding the nature of magic, Adam can be said to be unparalleled in the entire world. He has only seen a lot of information about the fairy version of the hand-rubbing mecha after it was activated once, and it is no longer a secret to him. Adam gently moved the staff of darkness forward, and the air in front of the beams was slightly distorted. The beams, which had a very unstable structure, immediately exploded in the air. The violent shock wave directly shook the already crumbling gringotts. Completely turned into ruins. Roar. Ziohei lost his foothold and could only flap his wings and fly into the sky, looking down at him with an increasingly unkind look. Ahem. The goblins coughed hard in the smoke. Fortunately, a gust of wind blew the smoke away. Before they could take a breath, they found that the gust of wind was getting stronger and stronger. Adam snapped his fingers, and Ziohei, who almost caused a storm due to the leakage of energy in his body, carefully put away the energy, turned around and landed on the high platform Adam created by pulling up the ground. I don't know why, but Ziohei likes to fight from a high position, and is basically never on the same level as his prey or combat target. If Ziohei really went to the world of monster hunting, I don't know how many pedicure masters would hate the cat cart. Adam was thinking wildly while waiting for the goblin's next move. He was quite interested in the equipment, and the goblins also discovered the horrors further away after the surrounding buildings were completely destroyed. Someone from the Ministry of Magic. The old goblin covered his chest with one hand, widened his eyes and said in disbelief, "Are you from the Ministry of Magic? How is this possible?" "Oh, what's impossible? Is there a problem?" In fact, it should be said that the Ministry of Magic belongs to him, but Adam did not correct him. After all, he has always been low-key. The old fairy said to her heart that of course there is a problem. It is a big problem. Why did the people from the Ministry of Magic deal so harshly with Lord Guling as soon as they came up? Even if they do reject the Ministry of Magic's request, the Ministry of Magic can't just take action. How could people from the Ministry of Magic be unreasonable? However, as soon as these problems surfaced in the mind of the old goblin, they fell silent again. The premise for the existence of those problems is that the Ministry of Magic is not strong enough to truly eliminate them with the strength shown by the opponent. Now, all these problems are no longer a problem. Then, a new question emerged in the old goblin's mind. You are so fierce. How did Voldemort almost dismantle the Ministry of Magic? Oh, most of the people in the Ministry of Magic now are not from the original Ministry of Magic, so that's okay. What a ghost. This makes it even scarier, okay? You obviously have the ability to stop Voldemort, but you waited until Voldemort almost dismantled the Ministry of Magic without taking action. Now that the Ministry of Magic has been replaced, you stand up for the Ministry of Magic. This is hard not to make people suspicious. Bang! The old goblin's head jerked back, and his thoughts suddenly stopped. What? A goblin with ulterior motives. I originally thought that your refusal to cooperate with the Ministry of Magic's investigation and the illegal assets of corrupt criminals were just due to your greedy nature. I didn't expect that you were actually hiding weapons of mass destruction. Obviously, you have been hiding it for a long time. The idea of waging war against wizards. Adam waved the rod of darkness, and the shockwave with sleep magic fell evenly on the heads of each goblin, causing them to fall into deep sleep one by one. It seems that before you go to trial, you need to go to the Ministry of Magic with me for questioning. Mr. Adam, what happened just now? Seeing that all the goblins fell to the ground, the horrors came over The movement in Gringotts just now was too loud and Auror couldn't help but turn his head to look at diagonally behind him. He didn't know how many shops had been reduced to ruins in the aftermath of the shockwave just now, and how many of the goods inside could have escaped damage. Just now, these goblins used a weapon that has never been seen before. Through the silver equipment on their bodies, they can release extremely destructive red light. You also saw the power just now, Adams. Words made the Aurors immediately look at the goblins on the ground, showing wary expressions. They have fallen into coma now. The weapon seems to require control before it can be released, so don't worry too much. Adam waved his hand to let the Aurors relax, and then heard Adam continue, but there must be other goblins in the vault area beneath Gringotts. We don't rule out the possibility that they have mastered similar weapons, so, under the admiring gazes of the Aurors, Adam stretched out his hand to pull the brim of his hat, holding the Staff of Darkness and walking forward slowly. Take these goblins back and temporarily detain them. Remember to take off their equipment and store them separately. I'll go and take them away. By the way, let's take a look at how much treasure Gringotts in the UK has accumulated. No problem, Mr. Adam, leave it to us. The Aurors were all moved to tears. Sure enough, as Minister Eugene's classmate and friend, Mr. Adam, like Minister Eugene, took the lead in the battle and always stood in front of them. After walking through the passage and arriving underground, Adam couldn't help but recall the brief battle scene before in his mind, those weapons and the energy released from them. When they first met, Adam only discovered that those things were not releasing offensive magic, but releasing an extremely unstable energy as ammunition. But now that he looked back and looked at it, it was not difficult to find that there were some other things in it. Question: that kind of weapon doesn't look like there's a place to reload ammunition. Adam has only seen one magic stone in this world that is independent of living creatures and has high magical energy, so what do goblins' weapons use as energy? Where does the released energy come from? Is it the magic power that the goblin itself relies on to cast spells? But if the magic power of goblins is so violent, then the goblins are no different from walking bombs. This obviously doesn't make sense. Is the equipment directly absorbed from nature before attacking? Adam opened his hand, and a beam of energy that had been frozen in time appeared in his palm. He frowned secretly as he looked at the scarlet energy. Although this look is very unfamiliar, after carefully sensing it, why does this energy give him a feeling of déjà vu? Chapter 297, Everyone is Equal, Humanity Comes First. Emotional Magic. When he was about to walk out of the underground passage, Adam finally found the source of the vague sense of familiarity. Although he had never seen this kind of energy, Adam was very familiar with the breadth of emotional magic brought by this energy. Both the love card and the hate card had been studied by him for quite a while before they were condensed, and this research has not really ended until now. This power has a part of hate, but no love, and the nature of the performance is so manic and disordered. Is it a magic mixed with multiple negative emotions? Adam vaguely captured the true face of this energy at this time. Adam walked to the end of the underground passage, and he dispersed the energy casually and continued to study it later. The current priority is still the group of fairies in front of him, and the vault. Let's get rid of these fairies first. Wait a minute. We surrender. Adam just raised his hand and heard such a sharp shout from a distance. The half-drawn magic circle stagnated, and Adam's waist was almost sprained. What did you say? We are willing to surrender, Mr. Wizard. Please don't harm our lives. A goblin whose voice sounded relatively young, but whose appearance seemed to be no different in age from the other goblins, said, while huddling and poking his head out of the ruins caused by a rock fracture. You can take all these vaults away. There was such a big noise just now, but now there is no explosion at all, and the other party can walk here from the underground passage openly. It seems obvious what the result will be after the old goblin takes people to get the secret weapon. In this case, the young goblin decisively chose to sacrifice the treasure to save himself. After all, money can be earned again if it is lost, but life is really lost if it is lost. Besides, he is a young man, and the money here is not his share. Under the influence of the young goblin, many goblins chose to give up the vaults they were responsible for, and they were relieved after knowing that Adam came from the Ministry of Magic. In response, Adam just smiled slightly and ordered the Aurors around him, tie them all back. What? A goblin couldn't help but exclaimed. Aren't you from the Ministry of Magic? How can you just tie them up? Haven't they handed over the treasures that the Ministry of Magic wanted? If you had honestly handed over the stolen money involved in the case as required before, we would not have done anything more. An Auror controlled the rope to tie up the goblins one by one, and couldn't help saying, "But now you not only resist the Ministry of Magic's law enforcement, but also secretly hide high-powered lethal weapons. Do you still want to understand this matter so easily? Just go to Azkaban." "What? Go to Azkaban? No. You can't do this." The goblin couldn't help but jump up and down, looking at the tied-up fellows around him. "This is against the rules. Gringotts will not accept such unreasonable requests from you." Gringotts is a global financial institution. Except for a few countries, it can be said that as long as a country has the Ministry of Magic, it will have Gringotts. Its business involves various aspects such as identification, pawning, pledge, storage, transportation, magic currency exchange, muggle currency exchange, etc. Thinking of this, Adam also had some understanding of why goblins could hide such powerful weapons and equipment. Perhaps these things were not made secretly by them, but had existed for a long time. Relying on these things, wizards could not gain much advantage in combat power against goblins, and might even suffer a great loss. Otherwise, why would wizards hand over such an important industry to goblins? As for why wizards did not record this, it was probably because they were embarrassed. The description of Goblin Rebellion in the history of magic obviously has many parts of the spring and autumn style. Hearing the goblins shouting like this, although most people did not care, a few Aurors showed some worried looks. They were Aurors who had worked in the Ministry of Magic before, not the newcomers who followed Eugene. They knew the specialness of goblins and could not treat them as ordinary magical animals with the same intelligence as humans. Adam noticed a change in the mentality of these people and said in his heart, "Maybe it was like this before, but from now on, such days will never come back." Adam glanced at the goblin, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. "Not in accordance with the rules? The Ministry of Magic's actions are in accordance with the new wizarding law." "I don't know what rules you are talking about. This is the country we rule, and there are and only rules made by us, strictly speaking." Adam's speech at this moment is not so glorious. If you trace it back to the bottom, it even has a bit of speciesism. It shouldn't be said from the standpoint of the Ministry of Magic, but Adam still said it. The Aurors of the Ministry of Magic around him not only didn't think there was anything wrong, but they also felt a sense of pride. The reason is very simple, because although the Ministry of Magic didn't say this before, it did it this way. Ecological niches are something that can never be obtained by methods other than the law of the jungle. Whether it is the muggles in the surface world or the wizards in the inner world, humans are the creatures with the highest ecological niche on this planet. The main reason is only one: humans are strong enough, so strong that they can constantly squeeze the living space of other creatures, open up a stable living environment, and have the capital to make human cubs dare to cry loudly when they are extremely fragile at birth. Except for this, everything else is just a detail. The goblin heard Adam's words and obviously understood some of Adam's hidden meaning. He couldn't help but look at him in horror. You will provoke a war between wizards and goblins by doing this." "Provoke a war? I'm just stating the facts and doing what I should do. If the goblins want to use this to start a war, then go ahead," Adam responded with a calm smile. "But I want to remind you, goblins can choose to start a war, but after the war starts, the right to end the war is no longer in the hands of the goblins. Gringotts, or the goblins, had better be more sensible. Even if they want to go to war with wizards, they should bet on both sides and choose to obey the rules of wizards by dividing a part of their opposition to the war. Otherwise, the wizarding world may completely lose a race called goblins, and then have a race like house elves that has served wizards for generations. Whether it is now or in the near future when the 9 squares are divided for magical animals, Adam's position is consistent. Everyone is equal, and humans are supreme. To give a simple example, humans raising magical animals may be divided into various situations such as normal operation, illegal breeding, and possible harm to society, but if magical animals dare to raise humans, there is only one result, which is death on this planet. Human rights are greater than the rights of all other creatures. The reason is that the ecological niche of humans now was determined by our ancestors in the naked fighting in the past. Now any step back in this regard is a blasphemy against the blood and tears of our ancestors. Let it go." Adam glanced at the memory of the goblin. This guy basically didn't know any secrets, so he simply asked the Auror to untie the restraints on him. "Go and notify Gringotts in other places and tell them what happened here. If they accept our rules, come to accept the hearing, and then they may be able to rebuild Gringotts here. If they don't accept it, we will directly judge Gringotts and reserve the right to take further measures." Adam took a last look at the goblin, then disappeared from the spot, leaving only his last words, As for starting a war, it's up to you. I'm waiting for your answer. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298, Unimaginable Trust. Although he heard the excitement before, after returning to the Ministry of Magic, when escorting the goblins, a senior Auror couldn't help but look at Adam. Mr. Adam, did your statement just now, his face was tangled for a moment, and the Auror finally organized his words. Have you communicated with Mr. Minister in advance? I am referring to the part of your speech that represents the Ministry of Magic. Huh? I thought I heard someone mention me. Eugene, who heard that Adam had returned from the operation, happened to be nearby. He walked over in a few steps, nodded to the Auror who greeted him, and then looked at Adam. What's the result? I heard from the first batch of people who came back that there seemed to be some accidents. It's just a small thing. Adam's confident smile made Eugene nod and plan to leave. He has a lot of things to be busy with recently. There is no way. After all, many things in the current Ministry of Magic are new, and it is impossible for each department of the Ministry of Magic to perform its own duties like the previous Ministry of Magic. What was done before is done now. In the situations he encountered for the first time, no one dared to make decisions for him, so he had to do everything himself. Mr. Minister, please wait a moment. There is something I think you need to know. The Auror couldn't help but call out to Eugene, and then recounted the previous conversation between Adam and the goblin. During the conversation, the Auror glanced at Adam and found that Adam's face was only relaxed and relieved. It seemed that he must have been angry with Eugene about this matter, but what Auror didn't expect was that Eugene showed a surprised expression after hearing what he said, then looked at Adam and said, "Are you going to start a war with the goblins? Then I'm afraid I'll have to make another plan. I'm afraid the current plan will also be affected, Senior Auror?" In an instant, the Auror himself felt as if he had turned into a world-famous painting. Mr. Co-author, did you just find out about this? It's just a trivial matter. The Ministry of Magic just needs to follow the steps. If we really want to fight, it won't take me a few days to push all the way. Adam waved his hand to Eugene nonchalantly, and Eugene breathed a sigh of relief. That's it. That's good, Senior Auror! Which one? What's better? Mr. Minister, are you convinced in this way? He said that he wanted one person to represent the Ministry of Magic and fight the entire race of goblins. Looking at the two people who dared to say something and the other who dared to believe it, the Auror himself felt that the world was unreal at this moment, and he even began to wonder if he was dreaming. After pinching himself and realizing that the pain was not a dream, the Senior Auror began to wonder if he had been under too much stress these past few days and was hallucinating. And it was such an outrageous hallucination. I heard that there was a Senior Auror who fell into hallucinations for a long time after being too stressed, and even found it difficult to take care of himself. Ignoring the Senior Auror who was almost heartbroken, he chatted with Eugene for a few more words before the two of them went to do other things. Eugene really doesn't know how strong Adam is, so after knowing this, he will consider whether Adam said what he said after taking into account the power of the Ministry of Magic. But his trust in Adam has reached a level that is difficult for outsiders to understand or even imagine. Ever since Adam really rescued his parents from the ruins of the Hanging Garden, every word Adam said could be labeled by Eugene as something Adam could definitely do. It can be said that even if Adam said he wanted to take off the sun, Eugene would only consider the harm of losing the sun to the world and persuade Adam not to do it, instead of doubting whether Adam could really take off the sun. And in this world, there is actually another person who is not a blood relative of Adam and who also has a level of trust in Adam that is unimaginable to ordinary people. A folded piece of paper appeared in front of Adam out of thin air, interrupting Adam's step of flipping through the goblin's memory. Looking at the letter, Adam's face was solemn. He stopped what he was doing and reached out to grab the letter and unfold it. This is a magic prop specially made by Adam. After writing a message on it, he only needs to input magic power, and the paper will automatically fold up and be transmitted directly to him regardless of spatial distance. This is after Adam decided to go to China. In order to prevent himself from missing important things due to the current backward communication methods, only a very few people have the magic props made with Chuangpei. The messages that will be conveyed using this kind of letter paper are obviously very important thing. After scanning it 10 lines at a time, Adam breathed a sigh of relief. This letter was sent by Uther, not because of anything life-threatening, but because of Gringotts. The goblin was not slow in his actions, and when it came to the Gringotts branch in a country, the goblins were obviously not slow in their actions either. Gringotts in each country issued notices to the local Ministry of Magic, condemning British magic, violent law enforcement measures and subsequent unfounded and excessive demands. Uther obviously received the relevant news immediately, so he immediately wrote to Adam to ask Adam about the whole matter and see if he needed his help. Adam touched the letter paper. Although replying "everything is under control, don't worry" would solve the problem, he felt that something was not good. Other than that, Gringotts in Egypt, if the British wizards really go to war with the Gringotts, then Gringotts might take this opportunity to do something. After all, according to what Adam saw from the memory of the old goblin, the goblins have been preparing for war. Although the wizards failed to completely defeat the goblins, the equipment seemed to have some defects that were difficult to improve, so the goblins were at a disadvantage in the end. But the goblins saw the possibility of defeating wizards and becoming the masters of the magic world from the memory of the old goblin. Those preparations seemed to be almost completed within the goblins, but they were still accumulating more power for the sake of safety. Now the behavior of the British Ministry of Magic may give the goblins a push. At that time, the goblins who started the war might embezzle all the currency and treasure stored in Gringotts, and the price was just the goblins who signed the magic contract, or the legal persons in various parts of Gringotts. This sudden and unexpected loss is probably a heavy blow to the wizarding world, and most countries forget about other countries. China doesn't have Gringotts at all. It's better to go to Egypt by yourself. After all, according to what Uther said at the beginning, Adam has a share of the money in the Egyptian Ministry of Magic. He stepped to the door of Uther's room, and Uther was already waiting for him in the room. After hearing Adam's explanation of the whole story, Uther looked at him in surprise. So that's the case. The right to mint coins in Egypt is not in the hands of goblins, so I didn't have such an idea before. After all, Gringotts in Egypt is just a bank, and it is well known that the treasures in Egypt are usually not very clean. Therefore, Gringotts, which opened a treasure appraisal and curse removal business, took the initiative to take on the dirtiest and most tiring work in Egypt, and the Egyptian Ministry of Magic let Gringotts occupy an important position in the financial industry of the Egyptian wizarding world. Uther shook his head. Let's not talk about this first. You have the confidence to face all goblins, so have you thought about how to deal with the International Federation of Wizards? Chapter 299 Ancient Magic. International Confederation of Wizards. When Uther mentioned this, Adam remembered the existence of such an organization. The International Confederation of Wizards is roughly equivalent to the United Nations in the wizarding world. The Ministry of Magic of each country will participate in it, and its head is the president of the International Confederation of Wizards. It sounds like it is very powerful, but compared with the presence of the United Nations in the Muggle world, the presence of the International Confederation of Wizards in the wizarding world is even lower, and much lower. By the way, Professor Dumbledore was once a member of the International Confederation of Wizards in the UK and also the president of the International Confederation of Wizards, but after Voldemort was resurrected, Professor Dumbledore was revoked of his status as a member of the International Confederation of Wizards by the British Ministry of Magic for spreading false information and causing social panic, and naturally he also lost his status as the president of the International Confederation of Wizards. And Adam had only seen this matter in the corner of the Daily Prophet before, and it was briefly mentioned. It is conceivable how low the presence of the International Confederation of Wizards in the wizarding world is. It's normal to think about it. Unlike Muggles who are very keen on encroaching on the interests of other countries, the Society of Wizards is more closed. Basically, no Ministry of Magic in any country is interested in the affairs of other countries at the same time. The composition of the International Confederation of Wizards is also quite casual. The president of the International Confederation of Wizards is just a symbolic leader, so Grindelwald wanted to break the statute of secrecy by becoming the president of the International Confederation of Wizards. He was really thinking too much. The International Confederation of Wizards started to promote the statute of secrecy because it met the needs of all the ministries of magic. If the president of the International Confederation of Wizards really wants other ministries of magic to do something they don't want to do, they can just not come, or if there are many opponents, they can just not recognize you as the president. The International Confederation of Wizards doesn't have any 5 permanent members to endorse the rules of the International Confederation of Wizards. However, despite this, the International Confederation of Wizards cannot ignore casually. After all, it is a force that almost all the ministries of magic in the world participate in. For most people, this is the case. Don't worry about it. If they ignore it, I don't care about them. If they want to interfere in the internal affairs of the British Ministry of Magic, it just gives me an opportunity to take action. Adam shook his head. I will give the other party the power to decide when to start the war, but I will reserve the power to decide when to stop the war. This sentence is also given to other ministries of magic. Such arrogant words simply do not take the magic ministries of various countries into consideration, but Uther just nodded after hearing it. Since Adam said so, it is stable, then. I have nothing else to do. Gringotts. In Egypt, the Ministry of Magic has never trusted Gringotts. Only a part of the funds are stored in it. Just take it out later. Uther was very calm about this. As for other wizards, the Ministry of Magic will issue a notice to remind everyone to take back their assets, but it will not be forced. Adam frowned when he heard this. Doing this, when their assets are swallowed up by Gringotts, they may be dissatisfied with the Ministry of Magic, and may even attack the Ministry of Magic or other ordinary wizards when the war starts. Don't trust the Ministry of Magic, and Gringotts is just an opportunity. That being said, it will always cause additional damage, and these wizards are more hidden than goblins. Uther touched his chin and thought for a moment, then changed the wording of the notice to mandatory. Adam raised his eyebrows. I'm afraid this won't make all wizards really take out the assets in Gringotts, but this can help us screen out those wizards who don't obey orders and deal with them in advance. Deal with them. Adam was shocked and silent. My friend, I think you seem a little extreme. Adam, this is Egypt, not Britain after all, and different countries have different customs. Adam suddenly realized that the essence of the Egyptian Ministry of Magic is the kingship of the pharaoh, and of course it will be tougher in its attitude towards those who don't obey orders. Thinking about it this way, Uther's previous idea of just wanting them to lose some money and learn a lesson was already quite tolerant. Let's do it this way. Feel free to send me a letter if you need help. Adam took out a new piece of letter paper and handed it to Uther, who put it away close to his body. No problem, I won't be polite to you if necessary. After saying goodbye to Uther and returning to England, Adam continued to dig out the secrets of those equipment from the memory of the old goblin. The lifespan of wizards is not short, and the lifespan of goblins is even longer than that of wizards. The memory of the old goblin is the largest in total among the memories Adam has read, which contains a lot of invalid information. However, Adam has also grown in this process, and has become more and more skilled in processing memories. Now he can achieve an effect similar to keyword retrieval, by implanting a subconscious thought to trigger the memory of the old goblin, and then search for those triggered memories. After seeing a lot of memories about the goblin's forging skills, Adam finally found the information about those equipment. It still failed. In the side of the old goblin's memory, a young goblin put down the bracelet in his hand. Adam had seen several goblins wearing similar bracelets that day. What went wrong? The old goblin's voice sounded. No, I did it exactly as it said in the notes. You have tried it countless times yourself and you haven't succeeded even once, right? The goblin picked up the bracelet it had just put down, then picked up another bracelet from the forging table and put them together. Look, there is almost no difference between these two bracelets, only that step is different. The goblin raised two bracelets, and the one he took from the forging platform quickly emitted a scarlet light, condensing into a beam of light and shattering the dummy in the distance. With only one step of difference, we can no longer forge the weapons that our ancestors once forged. What our ancestors forged was a wizard's nightmare, but we can only forge scrap metal with only appearance. The goblin threw his forged work back into the furnace without mercy. It stands to reason that anything made by goblins mithril can be sold at a good price, but it cannot be sold in this form. Maybe a wizard can see something from this shape and interfere with the goblin's plans. Ancient magic. Adam heard the old goblin sigh after a period of silence. Ancient magic? What is that? Is the energy in goblin weapons ancient magic? Let's do a keyword search later. The remaining ancient magical energy in the outside world has been dealt with by wizards decades ago. There is nothing we can do about it. After the young goblin finished speaking, Adam heard the old goblin say, no, there is another place, the underground of Hogwarts. It may be the last place where ancient magic exists. Adam Reed, headmaster of Hogwarts? What? Is there that energy underneath Hogwarts that the goblins use? How come I don't know? Adam fell into silence when he thought of the extremely unstable nature of that energy. which would explode immediately with the slightest disturbance. Chapter 300 The Fairy and Number 039, S Conspiracy. Who in the family would understand that I actually studied for 5 years on a bomb? It's not necessary to say how ridiculous this thing is. After all, everyone knows that Hogwarts is safe. What really shocked Adam was that he had become the principal of Hogwarts but still didn't know about it, so much so that Adam even doubted whether what the old goblin said was true before Adam could recover from the shock. The old goblin continued to speak in his memory. That wizard collected all the ancient magical energy and finally sealed it underground in Hogwarts. Our predecessor, the Great Landlock, was also killed by the opponent there. Fortunately, it seems that in order to prevent anyone from seeking out ancient magical energy, the wizard did not record the ancient magic and pass it on to future generations, so, the old goblin didn't speak, but turned his head and looked into the distance. Their current location seemed to be inside an active volcano, or extremely deep underground. Adam could even see flowing magma at the end of the old goblin's site. A huge machine sat there. The giant drill at the front of the machine indicated the main function of the machine. To be honest, I'm not very optimistic about this machine. The young goblin also looked over and said at the same time, Landlock spent so much effort, gathering almost all the elves and using the energy of ancient magic to build a machine that can dig into the ground of Hogwarts. But we are far from having such conditions now. The young fairy turned to look at the old fairy. Don't forget, Hogwarts was also built with ancient magic. If we fail to dig through the underground of Hogwarts, we will instead attract the attention of wizards and let them discover the existence of ancient magical energy. So this is just a backup plan. The old goblin seemed to have the same doubts, so he said this quickly after the young goblin finished speaking, and then he reached out and took off the bracelet from the young goblin's hand. After Landlock's death, part of the equipment he made was destroyed, but some are still preserved. Relying on these and the power of Gringotts, we may be able to defeat those wizards without using alternative plans. Do we have to go to war with those wizards? The young goblin suddenly asked. The old goblin fell into silence, turned to look at the other party, and spoke after a long time. It's hard to believe that you would say such a thing. Have you forgotten the past of goblins and wizards? Now goblins and wizards seem to get along well, but that is what goblins got through war. Otherwise those who are chained, that's what will happen to our livestock. The young goblin took a deep breath. Sorry, I understand. The old goblin nodded. The young goblin turned around and was about to take out the mithril that had melted in the fire during this period and process it. At this moment, the old goblin pointed the bracelet in his hand at it. Boom. At this time, Adam discovered that this energy seemed to have a different impact on living individuals than on inanimate objects. It was similar to the death curse. When it hits an inorganic object, a huge explosion of energy will occur and fall on the young goblin. In the end, it only knocked the opponent away and made a crater at the point of impact. If such a wound is purely physical damage, even though it is fatal, it cannot take away a person's life immediately. However, the action of the old goblin directly putting down the bracelet after the blow on the young goblin's unresponsive appearance both indicate that the young goblin's life has been lost. Taken away by this energy. Sorry. Maybe you really understand, but I can't bet on it. The old goblin stepped forward and pushed the young goblin's body into the magma. Then he came to the forging platform where the young goblin was standing before and took out the melted goblin mithril. What he said seemed to be telling the young goblin. It seems that he is convincing himself. A large part of Landlock's failure, apart from the sorcerer's interference, was because a traitor appeared among the goblins and the plan was exposed in advance. Landlock didn't leave much equipment behind, so we only have this one chance. Breaking away from his memory, Adam looked at the elderly goblin who was still in a coma and was speechless. From the goblin's point of view, the other party may indeed be paying for the goblin's future, but unfortunately he is a human and cannot stand from the goblin's point of view. The most important thing now is to go to Hogwarts to check whether the underground bomb really exists. If it exists, Adam frowned slightly. After becoming the principal, all control rights in Hogwarts were theoretically open to him, including stairs, secret passages, protective magic, stone pillars guarding the school, ghosts and portraits, etc. If there is such a thing underground in Hogwarts, but he, the principal, does not know about it, then the only possibility is that one or several principals concealed the matter and used the principal's authority to remove the parts related to the bomb. Outside the magical system of Hogwarts, Adam took a step forward and appeared in the headmaster's office at Hogwarts. Oh, look who's here. What a rare visitor. Seeing Adam appear, a certain principal in the portrait couldn't help but let out a strange expression. Adam knew without looking that it must be Professor Phineas Black, the old man with the most grumpy personality among all the principals. Adam, who had indeed not been to Hogwarts for a long time and had basically left all the work to Professor Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall, did not argue with him. He looked up at the portraits of the principal on the wall with a serious expression. "Everyone, I came here to ask something. Please call back those who are not present." Although they are somewhat dissatisfied with Adam's behavior of letting go of the shopkeeper, everyone has seen Adam's contribution to Hogwarts, and everyone also recognized that he is the principal of Hogwarts, so the principals in the portraits also became serious. "Stand up. Wait a moment, I'll be right back, Professor." Dale-eyed whirlwind left the frame with her skirt in hand, and soon returned with 3 professors who were visiting from other places. "Okay, now that everyone is here, Adam, tell us why you are looking for us." The person who spoke was Professor Dumbledore, who was most familiar with Adam, but he knew that he might not be able to help with this matter, otherwise Adam would go directly to him. "That's it. I wonder if any of you know anything about ancient magic." Adam's eyes swept over. After hearing this sentence, several principals showed surprised expressions, but more principals just looked confused at the same time. The landlock mentioned in the memory of the old goblin seems to be a person from the past 100 or 200 years. If what the goblin said is true, then the principal who is most likely to be related to the bomb under Hogwarts should be closer to this time period. Close. Adam looked at a portrait. "Professor Nia for Fitzgerald, perhaps you can provide me with some information." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.